Chapter 343. Wow! The giant golden Buddha stretched out a finger and gently swiped at the unforeseen disaster. Squeak! The mournful scream shook the world. The body of the unforeseen disaster broke apart. 6 figures slowly flew out and floated in front of the giant golden Buddha. These 6 people were Huang Yoli and others. At this moment, they closed their eyes, and their breathing was weak. Their bodies were covered with all kinds of black blood vessels, which made people's scalp numb. Show! A golden Buddha seal flew out of the giant Buddha's eyebrows. One divided into 6 and quickly fell on the 6 people. Boom! All the blood vessels on the 6 people burst. The wounds on the body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. A faint golden light swayed on the whole body, wrapping several people like a cocoon. At this moment, the corners of the 6 people's mouths raised a smile. That kind of comfortable expression was written on everyone's face. The bodies of the 6 people flew quickly and landed quietly in front of Huang Rumen. Mother! Huang Rumen looked at Huang Yoli and cried with joy. She looked back at Sun Hao, and her eyes were full of gratitude. Mother, you gave me the Demon Emperor's throne because you wanted to come here. You know you will die, right? Mother, you are so stupid. With the young master here, even if it is an unforeseen disaster, so what? How can you be an opponent? Fortunately, we arrived in time. Otherwise, Huang Rumen murmured, tears in her eyes. Then, she rushed toward Sun Hao and hugged him tightly. Everything was said without words. Rumeng, it's okay, don't be afraid. Sun Hao patted Huang Rumen gently and took a few long breaths. Everything just now scared him to death. Fortunately, the golden Buddha did not let him down. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sun Hao looked up at the golden Buddha, and the light in his eyes flickered. The giant golden Buddha stretched out a heavenly pillar-like finger and pointed forward. Boom! The body of the unforeseen disaster burst apart directly. A core appeared in front of the giant golden Buddha. This core was only a kilometer in diameter, and it emitted a metallic luster. It looked indestructible. Buzz! The giant golden Buddha pinched its 2 fingers gently, and the core shook. There was no damage at all. Sarira, emptiness is color. Color is emptiness. The giant golden Buddha's mouth was chanting, and a line of scriptures gushed out from his mouth, quickly enveloping the core. After a while, Kacha! The surface of the core was covered with cracks. As more and more scriptures appeared, more and more cracks appeared on it. Bang! There was an explosion. The inner shell burst open. Phew! At this moment, a series of phantoms flew out from the core and stood quietly in the sky. From afar, there were so many of them that it was impossible to count them all. Among these phantoms, there were humans, beasts, birds. They were not the same. Each of the phantoms' eyes shone with a strange light. Gratitude was written all over his face. Phew! They bowed deeply to the giant golden Buddha. Afterward, he stood up again and performed 3 kneels and 9 kowtows in the direction of Sun Hao. After a long time, they stood up, looking at Sun Hao's eyes, full of various emotions. Phew! They flew up into the sky, and their figures gradually disappeared into the void. Bang! The unforeseen calamity core shattered into powder and disappeared on the spot. At this point, the unexpected disaster was completely dead. Woo! The ancient rift looked at the giant golden Buddha and let out a low cry. The giant golden Buddha looked at the ancient rift, stretched out his big hand, and pressed down. Buzz! The sky trembled, and the golden light sprinkled straight down. When the ancient rift saw this scene, his face was full of horror. It lay on the ground, shivering. In his eyes, there was despair and grievance. The next second, the ancient rift couldn't help but look startled, and his eyes kept showing light. He was surprised to find that these golden lights did not hurt him at all. On the contrary, they were quickly recovering from his injuries. After a while, the ancient rift was restored to its original state. In the middle of its eyebrows, a Buddha mark bloomed with dazzling golden light, and then gradually faded and disappeared. Go! A roar sounded in the ears of the ancient rift. Hearing this sound, The ancient rift nodded slightly. Afterward, his body shrank rapidly and turned into a half-meter-tall little tiger. He was stupid and very cute. Phew! He took a step and rushed towards Sun Hao. He kept circling around Sun Hao. Sun Hao looked at the ancient rift with a trace of fear in his eyes. In the scene just now, he clearly saw how strong this ancient rift was. Even if it turned into a little tiger, it still had a lingering fear. By the way, don't I have the supreme beast taming technique? Let's try it. Thinking like this, Sun Hao used the beast taming technique. Buzz, with a shock, there was a spiritual connection between Sun Hao and the ancient cracking space. This feeling was just like his relationship with the blood wolf. Hello, Master. I am the ancient vicious beast, the ancient rift. You can call me Little Goo. A sound rang in his ears. Hearing this sound, Sun Hao was slightly surprised. Then, the corner of his mouth rose. Little Goo, hello. Sun Hao touched the head of the ancient rift and found that it had no resistance. He enjoyed it very much. He summoned another one. This one was not a savage beast, but an ancient vicious beast. It was more powerful than the savage beast, and its strength was much stronger than the big wolf. The harvest was good. If this goes on, he would not be far from the invincible realm. Now, what he needed to do was to gain the power to protect himself. Thinking like this, Sun Hao nodded secretly. Suddenly, phew, a sound rang out. The golden giant Buddha stretched out his giant hand and waved gently. Phew, the 3,000-meter-high blood wolf body quickly flew up and stood quietly on the giant Buddha. Buzz, the giant Buddha's palm faced down and pressed gently. Phew, the golden light in the sky, like the Milky Way, quickly enveloped the blood wolf. The injuries on the blood wolf recovered at a visible speed. After a while, it recovered as before. Phew! The golden giant Buddha waved its right hand, and the blood wolf body slowly fell. After doing this, the golden giant Buddha's eyes swept around and confirmed that it was safe. Boom! There was an explosion. The golden giant Buddha exploded into scriptures and disappeared. Everything around was calm. Woo! The blood wolf stood up, and its body shrank rapidly. A moment later, it turned into a little red puppy and rushed towards Sun Hao. When it looked at the ancient rift, it kept growling in a low voice and bared its teeth. Woof, woof, woof. It aimed at the rift valley and barked wildly. Roar! The sky rift roared, and the tiger's power was overwhelming. Suddenly, the blood wolf lowered its head and crawled on the ground, shivering. Okay, big wolf, Little Goo, you have to get along in the future, Sun Hao said. After saying this, the blood wolf stood up and kept circling around Sun Hao, its tail sweeping loudly. At any time, it ran to the front of the ancient rift, shaking its head and wagging its tail. The ancient rift raised its head proudly, looking like a boss. P.S. Group 947782868. Looking forward to your joining. Chapter 344. Meng-er, does that mean we were wrong to suppress the sky-splitting ancient land? Huang Yoli's face revealed a look of shame. Not bad. Huang Rumeng nodded. The space-splitting ancient god is suppressing the unforeseen calamity, and by suppressing the space-splitting ancient god, we are helping the unforeseen calamity. If it wasn't for young master's arrival, I'm afraid that today, speaking up to here, Huang Rumeng's expression dimmed. Sigh, who would have thought that we were all wrong? However, there is still something I don't understand. Why did the space-ripping ancient god create the spatial turbulence? At this point, Huang Yuli looked at the sky-ripping ancient lying in front of Sun Hao in the distance and asked, just as he finished speaking, that wasn't caused by me. It was caused by an unexpected calamity. When I fought it, it devoured a lot of my power and released it into the sky to create chaos, to confuse you. Two roars resounded in their ears. Hearing this, Huang Yoli's expression changed slightly. Senior, in that case, the incident at Beluo City was also caused by the unexpected calamity? Huang Rumeng asked. Don't call me senior. I'm only 1,000,000 years old. I'm still very young. You can call me Little Goo, just like how Master calls me. You are right, Beiluo City was also created by the unexpected calamity, sky-splitting ancient said. Hearing this, Huang Rumeng nodded slightly, as if she was suddenly enlightened. I see. All of this made sense. So that's how it is. Senior, I'm really sorry, Huang Yuli said apologetically. No need. I didn't expect so many souls of ancient experts to be sealed in unforeseen calamity's body. The space-splitting ancient god muttered. The soul of an ancient expert. The two of them were puzzled. Those experts were famous throughout the three realms during the ancient era. I didn't expect that their souls were actually sealed in the body of calamity. Ancient sky, splitting ancient said. Senior, could it be that it wasn't devoured by the sky, splitting ancient beast? Huang Yuli asked. Devour? Hee. It's just the void-ripping ancient beast. It doesn't have that ability. From the looks of it, the person who possesses such means is definitely not simple. This world is going to change again. The sky-cracking ancient god murmured, his voice filled with worry. Hearing this, Huang Yuli frowned slightly. A look of reminiscence appeared in his eyes, as if he had returned to 10,000 years ago. Yuli, I'm leaving. Our child has already been sealed by me. She will only be born in 10,000 years. I'll have to trouble you during this period. Remember, after the child is born, you must find someone to marry. We can't pay too much attention to our children. This way, our children will have less karma with us. The world is about to change, distort the universe, and we'll have to rely on her. Yuli, I'm sorry. I'm not here anymore. You have to live on. You must be strong. Every sentence was like a heavy hammer that fiercely struck Huang Yuli's chest. Tears rolled down her cheeks unconsciously. Mother, what's wrong? Huang Ruming's expression changed slightly as she gently held Huang Yuli's hands. Meng I'm fine. Mother was just thinking about something. It's all in the past now. Huang Yuli wiped away her tears and revealed a smile. Let's go. Young master has waited for a long time. Huang Yuli said. Mother, don't worry. Huang Rumeng pulled Huang Yuli and said, Is there anything else? Of course. Huang Rumeng nodded. Mother, since the crisis of the demon Ancestor Mountain has been resolved, then you continue to be the demon emperor. After speaking, Huang Rumeng waved her right hand and prepared to take out the demon seal. In the next second, she couldn't help but look stunned, and her face was full of disbelief. Gone? Hey, the demon seal is gone. What's going on? Huang Rumeng searched all over the soul space and didn't find any trace of the demon seal. When Huang Yuli heard this, a touch of panic flashed across her face. Soon, she returned to her normal look. If you don't see it, then it's gone. It's the same with or without the demon seal. Mother promises you, I will continue to be the demon emperor. Okay. Huang Yuli said. Mother, you're so good to me. Huang Rumeng jumped up happily and threw herself into Huang Yuli's arms. After hugging each other, Huang Rumeng quickly rushed towards Sun Hao. Huang Yuli looked at Huang Rumeng's back with a dignified face. And then she sighed heavily. Meng Mother hopes that you will be happy for a lifetime. Leave the rest to Mother. Huang Yuli turned around and looked at the huge pit not far away. Then, she retracted her gaze and followed Hulaina and the others, walking towards Sun Hao together. Young master, Huang Rumeng ran over quickly with a bright smile on her face and threw herself into Sun Hao's arms. Rumeng, what are you so happy about? Sun Hao asked. Young master, I don't have to be the demon emperor. I can travel the world with you and go wherever I want. Huang Rumeng said. Hearing this, Sun Hao nodded secretly. Okay, then let's travel the world. Sun Hao stroked Huang Rumeng's waterfall-like blonde hair, feeling the intoxicating fragrance, narrowing his eyes, a look of enjoyment with his eyes closed. When everyone gathered around, the two separated. Thank you, young master. The 6 people bowed and saluted together. You're welcome, Sun Hao said. Young master, our demon Ancestor Mountain owes you too much, Huang Yuli said. Aunt Huang, don't say that. What do you mean by owing? Since Rumeng doesn't want to be the demon emperor, then we will leave first. This little thing, please accept it. After speaking, Sun Hao waved his right hand, took out all the fruit wine, and sent it in front of Huang Yuli. Looking at these immortal brews, Huang Yoli's face changed drastically, and she waved her hand again and again. It's public, this. How can this be? Aunt Huang, this little thing is nothing. We can brew it at any time. It may be of some use to you. After speaking, Sun Hao summoned the immortal boat. Huang Rumeng took Sun Hao and quickly rose into the air. Behind the two, Ancient Ripping Sky and Blood Wolf followed closely. Buzz. With a flash of light, the immortal boat shook up layers of ripples and disappeared. Hu Luoxian looked at the sky and murmured for a long time without spitting out a word. He looked sad and lowered his head. Actually, I am not qualified to follow the young master. It's okay. It's good to work harder. Hu Laodi patted him on the shoulder. Help Aunt Huang take care of the demon Ancestor mountain, and you will be able to see the young master often in the future. And I will. Hu Luoxian nodded heavily. Huang Yuli looked at the clear sky. When the young master comes, the crisis of the demon Ancestor mountain will be resolved. Let's go. Let's take the immortal boat back, and now we can start the space jump. Huang Yuli said. Okay. Summoning the immortal boat, they walked inside in turn. Buzz, the world trembled, and the immortal boat disappeared in place. After everyone left, a figure slowly condensed and took shape. This person was Ingyu. She looked at the sky with an extremely solemn expression on her face. Master, this old man left without saying goodbye. Please forgive me. There are some things that must be done, and I can't accompany you in the future. You have to take care. Ingyu looked in the direction of the great demon mountain and bowed deeply. After a long time, he straightened up. Whoosh! Ingyu turned into a stream of light and left quickly. Not long after Ingyu left. Buzz, in the deep pit on the ground, a ray of red light lit up. It was the demon seal that emitted the red light. Chapter 345. On a huge island in the endless sea, Ning Mingji and the others gathered in front of Goku and listened to him carefully. That damned old man Rely, he's so treacherous. He took away all my old pig's demonic energy and even made a journey to the west while we were still in our memories. I don't even know where my soul is sealed. The pig demon kept roaring angrily. Silence, Ning Mingji lightly shouted, and the pig demon immediately shut up. Listen to your eldest senior brother first. Master, this is what happened. However, although I, old son, have recovered my memories, I still don't know where all the demonic energy in my body is sealed. I'm afraid it won't be that easy to regain the strength of the past. Sun Wukong stood up and looked to the west. His eyes were burning with anger. Old man Rely, I must take revenge. Sun Wukong muttered. Goku, don't worry. Ning Mingji stood up, the corner of his mouth raised. Since the young master sent us to the west, he must have calculated everything. This trip to the west is definitely the key to us recovering our strength and defeating Rely. Ning Mingji said. That makes sense. Master, we have passed the 81 tribulations. Where should we go now? Goku asked. Of course I'm going. Before he finished his words. Buzz, suddenly the ground shook violently. Immediately after, boom, explosions kept ringing out. The entire mountain range collapsed. Dust filled the sky, shrouding heaven and earth. Everything returned to normal. A 10,000-meter deep pit appeared in front of them. Standing at the edge and looking down, it was impossible to see the bottom. Not good. Goku's expression changed slightly. The abyss has opened. What abyss? Asked the pig demon. There's no time to explain. Master, retreat. Sun Wukong roared. Just as he finished speaking. Howl! Roars could be heard coming from underground. Thud, thud. As if 10,000 horses were galloping, skeleton monsters of all shapes and sizes crawled out from the ground. There were so many of them that it made one's scalp go numb. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire sky. The pig demon's voice trembled as its teeth chattered. Just as he was about to take a step forward, he found that his body was sent flying out uncontrollably. He lowered his head to look. He saw that he was standing on a white cloud. This white cloud took Ning Mingji's group of 4 and sped away. Master, the Somersault cloud will protect you. Leave this to me. Holding the golden cudgel in his hand, Sun Wukong stomped on the ground with his right leg and stepped into the sky. The Jingu bang in his hand rapidly lengthened and smashed down at the skeleton monsters. Boom! Heaven and earth shook. Boundless chi waves roared in all directions. Bang! One by one, the skeletal monsters were crushed into powder. However, there was no end to the skeleton monsters. They surged forward like a tidal wave. It was so overwhelming that there was no end to it. Boom! With a sweep of the rod, all the skeleton monsters exploded into powder. Eldest senior brother is amazing. I didn't expect the monkey to be so strong. When can I, old pig, regain my memory? Everything has its own destiny. Don't worry. Ning Mingji folded his hands and said. Suddenly, howl! A roar came from underground. This sound was like a turbulent well eruption. An overwhelming number of skeletal monsters burst out from the ground, covering the entire area. Buzz, a giant zombie monster with a height of several kilometers, appeared in front of Sun Wukong. The eyes of the giant zombie monster burst out two blood-colored lights. At first glance, it made people's hair stand on end. After standing firm, the giant zombie monster stared directly at Sun Wukong. Buzz, the sky-covering claw, stretched down from the sky, aimed at Sun Wukong, and pressed down. Boom! Boom! The terrifying power vibrated out from the claw, and wherever it went, the skeleton monsters burst into powder one by one. Sun Wukong looked at this scene, his eyes full of solemnity. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the space shattered inch by inch. Sun Wukong's body disappeared without a trace. When he appeared again, he was already on top of the giant zombie monster. Old man, it's up to you. Sun Wukong picked up the golden cudgel and gently touched it. Immediately, Buzz, the golden cudgel, flew out quickly, stood quietly on top of the giant zombie monster's head, and expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it changed into a large pillar that supported the sky. From a distance, it looked like a circular giant peak that couldn't be seen. The aura that crushed everything rushed down from the golden cudgel. The giant zombie monster looked at the golden cudgel above its head, and the red light in its eyes kept flashing. That kind of panic was unmistakable on his stiff face. Ah! The giant zombie monster let out a strange cry, stretched out its hands, and blocked the top of its head. Buzz! Wisps of red light poured into its hands. The skin of the giant zombie monster gradually turned red, emitting a metallic luster. The golden cudgel quickly fell down and hit the giant zombie monster's hands. Immediately, boom, boom, a series of explosions rang out, one after another. The giant zombie monster's hands, inch by inch, shattered. Squeak, squeak. A burst of strange cries came from its mouth. The giant zombie monster struggled frantically, as if trying to escape. However, the size of the golden cudgel was enough to cover the world and cover all directions. Waves of air, vibrating from the golden cudgel, formed circles of clouds, distributed in the sky. Boom! Boom! The space couldn't stand this kind of power at all, and it cracked layer by layer. Boom! A dull, loud noise came. Then, a huge mushroom cloud rose from around the golden cudgel. Boom! Boom! The shockwave shook all around with the momentum of toppling the mountains and overturning the seas. Wherever it went, the ground cracked open and exploded into powder. No! Around the island, the evil races hiding in a corner let out a burst of unwilling roar. In the end, they all collapsed into powder and disappeared without a trace. As for the giant zombie monster, it collapsed into powder in the first place. It took a long time for the surroundings to return to calm. The mountains on the entire island disappeared. All the evil races were dead. The previous exit of the abyss was also moved to the ground. Looking at the scene around him, the pig demon opened his mouth wide and murmured for a long time without saying a word. Looking at Sun Wukong's eyes, full of admiration. Monkey brother, good. Call me eldest senior brother. Sun Wukong said. Eldest senior brother is amazing. Don't flatter me. Master is the most powerful. Let's go. The four walked to Ning Mingji's side together, with awe on their faces. Come with me. Ning Mingji turned around and looked in the direction of the great demon mountain, his eyes flashing. He took his 4 disciples and bowed deeply in that direction. For a long time. Only then did they straighten up. Master, are these 81 difficult to gather? Zhu Beiji asked. Not bad. Ning Mingji nodded. Now it's time for us to go to Elysium. As soon as these words came out, Sun Wukong's face changed drastically. Master, with my current strength, how can I be the opponent of Old Man Rulai? Sun Wukong said. Ning Mingji smiled slightly. Rulai? Compared with the young master, who is stronger and who is weaker? This, Sun Wukong looked startled, and a trace of fear appeared on his face. Rulai's palm, like a shadow, shrouding Sun Wukong's heart, lingering. Ning Mingji pointed his finger at Sun Wukong and shook his head slightly. You still don't believe in the young master. From the moment I saw the young master calculated all of this. He helped us break through and help you get your memories. How can Rulai compare with these means? Ning Mingji said, Master, Old Man Rulai can also calculate everything. If we go, I'm afraid. Don't worry, the young master has already pointed us out. We just need to follow the young master's method, and we will definitely break his Buddhist kingdom, harvest our memories, and get back our demon power. Ning Mingji looked at the crowd with a cautious face. Master, Rulai's Buddhist kingdom. In ancient times, several great gods entered it and never came out. If we go, how can we break Rulai's Buddhist kingdom? In Sun Wukong's eyes, there was a lingering expression of fear. Don't worry. Ning Mingji smiled slightly, his face full of confidence. The young master has calculated everything. He will help us. What we have to do is to do our own things. Let's go to Elysium first, and then find a way to sneak into the Buddhist kingdom. Ning Mingji said, Yes, master. Sun Wukong and the others put their hands together and bowed. Then, they turned into light and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 346. On an immortal boat flying towards the Skylaw continent, Sun Hao looked to Huang Rumeng and asked, Rumeng, why don't you even want to be the Demon Emperor? Huang Rumeng stood up and walked to Sun Hao's side. There are 2 reasons. Firstly, I don't like being a Demon Emperor. I like a carefree life. Mother passed down the Demon Emperor's throne to me. I had no choice but to accept it, Huang Rumeng said. Hearing this, Sun Hao nodded slightly. Rumeng had the same thoughts as him. As a Demon Emperor, although he had a high status and power, he would still worry about the Demon Ancestor. Wouldn't it be better to be an idle person and travel around the universe to see all the beautiful sceneries in the world? What about the second one? Sun Hao asked. Second, of course, is you, young master. Speaking of this, Huang Rumeng's face was slightly red. She sat next to Sun Hao and held Sun Hao's hand with both hands. Young master, I know you like an unrestrained life. I don't want to see you bound to the Demon Ancestor Mountain. You're willing to stay in the Demon Ancestor Mountain for Rumeng. It's really unfair to you. Young master, I also know that you have matters to attend to, so I am not suitable to be the Demon Emperor. In Huang Rumeng's eyes, there was a fiery gaze, staring at Sun Hao. Hearing this, Sun Hao nodded secretly. That last Rumeng was really not bad. She understood him so well. If not for his lack of strength, how could he have stayed at home all this time? Now, his chanting was already extremely powerful. Beside him were Bloodwolf and Sky-cracking Ancient Beast. There were not many who could threaten him. However, the cosmic giant in the dream was like a stone pressing on Sun Hao's chest, giving him a feeling of having goosebumps. External forces are external forces, after all. Improving one's own strength is the most important thing. Let's see how many blessing points are there. Thinking like this, Sun Hao opened the blessing point panel. After taking a look, his eyes shone brightly. The number displayed on it was 912,033. He was only a few tens of thousands away from reaching 1,000,000. At that time, he would be able to obtain a peerless constitution and embark on the path of cultivation. Sun Hao was in the process of excitement. Ding, blessing point +1. Ding, blessing point +1. A series of notifications rang out. On the panel, the numbers were jumping up quickly. 999998999999100000 inch full. Sun Hao stared blankly. What Sun Hao knew was that on a certain island in the endless sea, at this moment, it was when Sun Wukong swung his stick down and killed countless abyss monsters. Phew! Sun Hao's consciousness left his body uncontrollably. His body fell straight down and crashed into Huang Ruming's arms. It was as if he was gnawing on something. This scene was indescribable. Huang Ruming blushed and hugged Sun Hao, not stopping him. Young master. Huang Ruming's voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. Her face blushed all the way to her ears. After a while, Huang Ruming's sapphire eyes revealed a trace of panic. She seemed to have discovered that something was wrong. Why aren't you moving? Young master. After calling a few times, Sun Hao did not respond. Huang Ruming helped Sun Hao up, and after a look, her face changed slightly. He scanned with his divine sense, and after confirming that Sun Hao's aura was normal, he took a long breath. Young master, it seems that you are too tired. You should rest for a while. After speaking, Huang Ruming carried Sun Hao into the room and laid him flat on the bed. Afterward, she took a stool, put her hands on her cheeks, and stared at Sun Hao's handsome face. No, I must work hard to cultivate. I must be worthy of the young master. Strive to reach the divine realm as soon as possible. Thinking like this, Huang Ruming sat cross-legged on the ground and began to cultivate. The conversation was divided into two ends. After Sun Hao fainted, the place he came to was in the cosmic starry sky again. At this moment, the cosmic giant was facing away from him at this moment. Two beams of light shot out from the eyes of the cosmic giant and swept into the depths of the darkness. Suddenly, Sun Hao's scalp exploded. Looking at the depths of the universe, he couldn't help but frown. His face was full of panic. He saw, in the darkness, another cosmic giant walked out. Every step he took allowed him to cross a star field. Wherever the gigantic foot passed, planets would crumble and crumble. Even the stars couldn't withstand its pressure, turning into a stream of energy and pouring into the cosmic giant's body. At this moment, this cosmic giant also lit up with a dazzling red light, like a star, making people unable to look directly at it. The two cosmic giants opened their mouths at the same time and let out a silent roar. Then they began to fight. You come and go, busy. Bursts of cosmic turbulence surged in the darkness. Wherever it went, everything was annihilated. In an instant, Sun Hao was blasted into powder. A sharp pain came. Sun Hao's consciousness instantly collapsed. When he woke up again, his consciousness had returned to his body. He stared blankly at the ceiling and didn't move for a long time. A cosmic giant was already extremely terrifying. Now, the two cosmic giants were simply unimaginable. The problem was that the two of them were still fighting. If they ran to the purple sun star to fight, who could resist them? At this point, an incomparable sense of urgency surged through his whole body. He wanted to struggle, but found that he couldn't get up. A stream of cold current was running in the meridians. These coolness were rapidly transforming his body. Is this the primordial Tao body? Sun Hao was slightly startled. His eyes, no, it should be said that the body of consciousness showed ecstasy. Finally, this day was waiting. It was not easy. I don't know how awesome my talent will be after this transformation. Can I break through to the chi refining realm in one day? Break through to the foundation realm in a month? The more he thought, the more excited Sun Hao became. He also became more eager. He felt the changes in his body, quietly waiting for the moment to recover. Young master, it's been 10 days. Why haven't you woken up yet? At this moment, a gentle voice sounded. Rama. Sun Hao looked startled. I've been sleeping for 10 days? No way. It feels like only a few seconds. Rumung. Sun Hao shouted a few times in a row, but found that Huang Rumung didn't seem to hear it. He saw. Huang Rumung skillfully unbuttoned her clothes and took off her clothes. At this moment, Sun Hao was in front of Huang Rumung, facing her honestly. This, Sun Hao's heart seemed to jump out of his throat, and he was extremely nervous. Isn't this too exciting? His grateful soul was about to ascend to heaven. Hua! There was a splash sound. Huang Rumeng wrung a towel and wiped it back and forth on Sun Hao's body. Young master, even if you never wake up, Rumeng will always be by your side. Huang Rumeng muttered to herself, wiping Sun Hao's body, not letting go of any corner, leaving no trace of dirt. Young master, what's wrong with you? You wipe it several times a day. How come your body is still so dirty? The towel was gently rubbed in the wash basin, and the whole basin of water became muddy, as thick as ink. Huang Rumeng took the wash basin and left quickly. Soon, she replaced it with a basin of clean water and wiped it back and forth on Sun Hao's body again. If he was not careful, he would touch the place he shouldn't touch. Like an electric shock, Sun Hao's soul rose to the sky. The divine dragon went out of the sea and roared to the 9 heavens. Huang Rumeng screamed and took a few steps back in fright. Her face was red, and she covered her eyes with her hands, not daring to look. Young master, are you awake? Huang Rumeng shouted. However, there was no response. Scare me to death. Huang Rumeng patted her chest and walked back to Sun Hao. Then a small hand. Tens of thousands of words are omitted here. Chapter 347. Is this the primordial Tao body? Sun Hao sat up directly, clenching his fists excitedly. At this moment, he clearly felt that his whole body was full of power. There was a feeling of tearing the sky. As long as I can get the cultivation method, I can open the path of cultivation. Finally, this day has come. Rumeng, you don't need to protect me in the future. From now on, let me protect you. Sun Hao's eyes were full of brilliance. It took a long time to calm down. Young master, you woke up. Soon after, Huang Rumeng walked in with a basin of water. After seeing Sun Hao sitting up, the basin of water in her hand fell directly to the ground. With a fragrant wind, Huang Rumeng threw herself into Sun Hao's arms. Young master, you finally woke up. I thought you. At this point, the tears in Huang Rumeng's eyes fell. That kind of sadness was written all over her face. Rumeng, you have worked hard these few days. Sun Hao wiped the tears in Huang Rumeng's eyes with a tender face. Young master, it's not hard. Huang Rumeng shook her head. Rumeng, I can cultivate now. From now on, I will protect you. Sun Hao looked at Huang Rumeng and said firmly. Hearing this, Huang Rumeng looked surprised. The young master's cultivation as a mortal is over? Great. The young master's Tao heart was not broken. Okay, young master. Huang Rumeng nodded and said, Rumeng, do you have any cultivation method? Can you give me one? Sun Hao said. Okay. Huang Rumeng frowned slightly, moved her mind, and took out a jade slip. On the jade slip was written, Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra. Looking at its name, it was extremely domineering. This cultivation method must be Rumeng's family heirloom cultivation method, and she actually gave it to him. She really didn't treat him as an outsider. A touch of emotion flashed away. Holding the jade slip, he scanned it with his mind, and a huge amount of information poured into his mind. Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra was divided into 2 chapters. The first chapter was about the spiritual power chapter, which said that using spiritual energy to cultivate could cultivate to the half-immortal realm. The second chapter was about the immortal power chapter, which said that using immortal energy to cultivate could cultivate to the immortal emperor realm. Each of them was explained in great detail. Sun Hao sat cross-legged on the ground and began to cultivate according to the explanation of the first chapter of the Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra. After going through the incantation in his mind, he changed it. The changes were simpler and easier. Phew! The surrounding spiritual energy rushed in and circled around Sun Hao. It looked like a thick shield of spiritual energy enveloping the whole body. No trace of spiritual energy was willing to pour into Sun Hao's body. It seemed that the spiritual energy seemed to be afraid of Sun Hao and did not dare to enter. In other words, they were not qualified to enter at all. His body instinctively rejected it. How could this be? Sun Hao exhausted all his methods and couldn't let the spiritual energy pour into his body. Could it be that I'm already an immortal and need immortal chi to level up? Thinking like this, Sun Hao used the immortal Qi chapter and began to cultivate. Just running the cultivation method, Sun Hao found that the chant also changed rapidly, and the entire immortal power chapter was also changed beyond recognition. Phew! The immortal Qi around him surged like a tsunami and rushed towards Sun Hao. However, these immortal Qi also seemed to be afraid of Sun Hao and could not get close. The five-colored immortal Qi enveloped Sun Hao, forming a colored egg. Sun Hao looked at this scene, and his heart felt as if it was trampled by 10,000 alpacas, and he was bruised all over. It was not easy to obtain the supreme physique, but now there was no way to incorporate spiritual energy and immortal Qi into his body. Before it could be incorporated, but it was all expelled. Now, it couldn't even be incorporated into his body. This feeling was like winning 5 million in the lottery, but losing it. It was too uncomfortable. Rumung, what's going on? Why can't I absorb immortal Qi or spiritual energy? Sun Hao asked. Huang Rumring frowned, her face full of doubts. Obviously, she had never encountered this kind of situation before. Young master, maybe my cultivation method is not suitable for you. Huang Ruming said. Not suitable? Sun Hao frowned slightly. According to the second chapter of the Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra, a wisp of immortal Qi could linger around his fingertips, bursting out bursts of roars. Phew! Finally, it turned into a colorless flame. It looked plain, without the slightest power. When Huang Rumbing saw it, her face changed drastically, and cold sweat flowed. Young master, be careful, don't hit the immortal boat. Huang Rumung said. Is this flame very strong? Sun Hao asked. Young master, you throw it on the sea and try. Huang Ruming said. With doubts, Sun Hao followed Huang Ruming to the edge of the immortal boat, looked at the endless sea, and threw the flame down. Boom! There was a loud noise, earth-shattering. The seawater rushed straight up to a kilometer, producing a tsunami that rushed to all directions. In the center of the flame explosion, the seawater directly evaporated into nothingness. Sun Hao opened his mouth wide with a dumbfounded look. Unexpectedly, the flame he cultivated according to the Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra was so terrifying. If this exploded on a person, wouldn't it be death? It turned out that the supreme physique was so terrifying. How strong was he now? Only by finding an opponent to test it out would he know. Sun Hao took a few long breaths before he calmed down. The system really did not let him down. However, according to the Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra, no power fluctuations were found in his body. It seemed that his realm was still that of a mortal. Rumung, I have changed this Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra. You keep it. After speaking, Sun Hao handed the Divine Phoenix Heart Sutra to Huang Ruming. After Huang Ruming opened it, she was stunned in place and did not move for a long time. Shock, excitement, disbelief. Finally, she was deeply moved. Looking at Sun Hao, she did not take back her gaze for a long time. Rumung, where are we now? Sun Hao asked. Young master, at this speed, we will reach Tianluo continent in another day. Huang Ruming said. Tianluo continent. Sun Hao frowned slightly. The Supreme Court should have a lot of cultivation methods, right? Yes, the Supreme Court has collected a lot of cultivation methods from Xiang Star. Maybe you can meet one that suits you. Huang Rumung said. Okay, then let's go to the Supreme Court. By the way, since I can use the outside world's immortal Qi, is there any technique to fly with immortal Qi? Sun Hao asked. Young master, of course. Young master, I have a flowing light rapid art. You listen carefully. The chant is, Huang Ruming muttered, and a voice flew directly into Sun Hao's ears. Hearing this, Sun Hao instantly understood, and all the chants changed automatically. In an instant, he seemed to have become a flying master. Buzz, stepping out, Sun Hao instantly appeared a few hundred meters away. Standing in midair, he quietly felt the immortal Qi around him, a look of enjoyment with his eyes closed. I only need to use such a little immortal Qi to support me from falling. As long as there is immortal Qi, I can fly. Sun Hao muttered to himself, his eyes bursting with 2 rays of light. Whoosh! He turned into an escape light and disappeared instantly. He wandered between heaven and earth, enjoying himself too much. Huang Ruming stared blankly, her eyes flashing. As expected of the young master, this speed is so fast that even I can't react. As soon as she looked up, she found that Sun Hao had already appeared in front of her. "Fairy, would you like to fly with me?" Sun Hao made a gentleman's etiquette, stretched out his hand, and said, "Okay." Huang Rumbing walked forward with a smile on her face. "Ooh." Sun Hao took Huang Ruming into his arms. The two figures disappeared instantly. Only the constant distortion of the air proved that the two had appeared here. Chapter 348. Planet Xiang, Penglai Continent, Zhongli Family, Forbidden Back Mountain. Phew. A figure rushed to the forbidden area like a stream of light. Ancestor. Soon, the voice stopped in front of a bearded man. "Ancestor, something bad has happened." The bearded man's face was pale as he slowly opened his eyes. This person was the ancestor of the Zhongli family, Zhonglizi. Zhonglizi's face showed a trace of displeasure. "Why are you panicking?" "Ancestor, Zhongliluan is here." As soon as the words came out, "Tung." Zhonglizi stood up, his face full of uneasiness. He looked at the person and said, "It shouldn't be. I didn't send the news of Zhongli Jing Tian's death." "How did Zhongliluan know?" Zhonglizi slightly frowned, a thoughtful look on his face. After a long time, he raised his head and said, "Has everything been arranged?" "Ancestor, all the talented direct descendants have been sent away from planet Xiang. In addition, our direct descendants are distributed throughout the entire planet." Zhonglizi let out a long sigh of relief. "Where is Zhongliluan now?" "In the main hall." "Okay, come with me." Zhonglizi and the man quickly left. A moment later, the two came to the main hall. An old man in black armor with a surging aura stood in the main hall. This old man was Zhongliluan, Zhongli Jing Tian's uncle. "Greetings, Lord." Zhonglizi knelt in front of Zhongliluan and kowtowed. "Get up," Zhongliluan said lightly with his hands behind his back. "Do you know why I'm here?" Zhonglizi's heart skipped a beat. However, he didn't dare to show it on his face. He walked in front of Zhongliluan and cupped his fists. "Lord, I don't know. Please tell me. I passed by this place and came to see my nephew." "Where is he?" Zhongliluan said. Zhonglizi slightly frowned, his mind racing. Zhongliluan had coveted the position of the family head for a long time and wanted his son to be the next family head. He must hate Zhongli Jing Tian and wanted him to die. He couldn't come to see his nephew. Then what was his purpose for coming here? "Lord, Jing Tian has returned to the Blood Wolf Star. Didn't you see him?" Zhonglizi asked. "Back to the Blood Wolf Star?" Zhongliluan frowned. "When did this happen?" "A few days ago. I heard that he obtained some sort of treasure and said that he wanted to offer it to his father." Zhonglizi said. "What treasure?" Zhongliluan asked. "Sir, I don't know about this." Zhonglizi said. Zhongliluan didn't say anything. He just calmly looked at Zhongli. This gaze was extremely calm. However, it made Zhonglizi feel an inexplicable sense of panic. "Ha ha!" Zhongliluan roared with laughter, and his laughter was filled with arrogance and indifference. "Zhonglizi, even now, you still won't tell the truth? Did you kill Zhongli Jing Tian?" Zhongliluan looked coldly at Zhongli Boom. A bolt from the blue. Zhonglizi's expression changed dramatically. He knelt down and said, "My lord, I don't know what you mean." Zhongliluan's face was filled with ice-cold, killing intent. "Zhongli Jing Tian's soul lamp has already shattered. You are asking this old man what I mean?" Zhongliluan said. "Ow, how could you have his soul lamp?" Zhonglizi asked, his face filled with disbelief. Zhonglizi's face was full of puzzlement. Zhongli Jing Tian was dead. Shouldn't he be happy? Why? What the hell happened? Zhonglizi looked at Zhongliluan, his face filled with disbelief. Why? Zhongliluan smiled coldly and sent out a divine sense transmission. "This old man will tell you why. Because Zhongli Jing Tian is this old man's son." Hearing this, Zhonglizi's pupils shrank, and his face changed dramatically. How is this possible? How did Zhongliluan replace the crown prince with a leopard cat? Zhonglizi's face was full of despair. He had obtained this big secret, and there was no possibility of survival. Fortunately, he was prepared and sent all the direct descendants out. As long as there was a fire seed, the Zhongli family would not be finished. Zhonglizi lowered his head and said nothing. You killed my son. You don't need to exist in this world. Just as he finished. In the sky of the Zhongli family, a blood-colored vortex suddenly appeared. One by one, blood wolves drilled out of the vortex. Howl! The blood wolves roared and pounced on the people of the Zhongli family. Immediately, wow, help! Ding, bang, the sound of flesh tearing, screams, cries for help, fighting sounds, crashing sounds, the sounds weaved together and formed a solemn and stirring symphony. The entire Zhongli family instantly fell into chaos. Countless people of the Zhongli family were dying quickly. Outside the Zhongli family, many immortal cultivators looked at this scene and did not dare to step forward. In their eyes, there was only fear. Zhonglizi's divine sense swept everything outside and shouted, "No, don't stop!" He took a step forward, but before he could move, he found that his whole body was imprisoned and could not move. The pressure of the immortal venerable realm made Zhonglizi breathless, and the joints of his body kept exploding. Plop! A sound rang. Zhonglizi fell to the ground with a face full of unwillingness. Sir, Zhongli Jingtian was not killed by us. What if it wasn't? He died on your planet, and the crime of dereliction of duty is you, destroying you. This is just the beginning. Zhong Liluan's eyes were blood red, and his face was full of resentment. Howl! A blood wolf pounced in and devoured the others in the hall. Until death, he did not let out a scream. Zhong Liluan carried Zhonglizi and smiled coldly. Don't worry, this old man will not let you die so easily. How can you die if the murderer is not eliminated, right? Zhong Liluan's face was full of a cruel smile. Murderer? The corners of Zhonglizi's mouth rose slightly. You? Can you cure the murderer? I advise you not to go. Otherwise, you will definitely leave your life there. Ha! Zhong Liluan looked up to the sky and laughed. This thing star can make this old man lose his life? Say, who is the murderer? Zhong Liluan's voice was cold. Don't even think about it. I won't say it even if I die. Zhonglizi closed his mouth and stopped talking. You won't say it, right? Is there anything good for you? Zhong Liluan waved his right hand, and a wisp of purple light drilled into Zhonglizi's body. Immediately, Zhonglizi let out a burst of miserable screams. I say. Zhonglizi looked frightened, and his whole body was weak. Zhong Liluan, I also advise you really don't go. The one who killed your son is the godly cunning immortal. I have inquired about it. He can calculate everything. His means are heavenly. Even the immortal emperor, I am afraid, is not his opponent. If you go, it is tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg. Zhonglizi said one sentence at a time. Every sentence was good advice. However, Zhong Liluan did not listen to a word. Godly cunning immortal? Calculate everything? His means are heavenly? Even the immortal emperor is not his opponent? A little Zhang star, I want to see how strong he can be. Say, how can I find him? Zhong Liluan asked. Go to the Supreme Court of Tianluo Continent. Zhong Lilong knows. Zhonglizi said. Okay, then you go with this old man. After speaking, Zhong Liluan took Zhonglizi. His figure flickered and disappeared. Chapter 349. Supreme Court. Zhongli Lang stood outside the Forbidden Area's entrance and looked at the two figures before him, and his expression couldn't help but change slightly. Of course, he knew one of them. It was Zhonglizi. Zhonglizi's expression was dispirited and his aura was weak. It seemed that he had suffered a lot. Beside him was an elder with a surging aura. This person was dressed in armor and looked like a veteran general on the battlefield. He had an unstoppable aura. Even after Zhongli Lang used his secret technique, he was still unable to sense this person's aura. In other words, this person's strength was far above his. It was very likely that he had reached the celestial venerable realm. Not good. Zhongli Lang's heart jerked, and he didn't even think about it before taking out the jade slip and sending a distress message to Luo Luyan. Zhong Liluan noticed all of this, yet he didn't care at all. "You're Zhong Lilang?" asked Zhong Lilun. "That's right. I wonder if Senior," before he could finish his words. Phew! A terrifying pressure pressed down in succession, and it pressed down upon Zhong Lilang to the point it was difficult for him to catch his breath, and his expression went grim. Bang! A translucent hand condensed into form, and in an instant, it struck onto Zhong Lilang's body. Instantly, Zhong Lilang's body was blasted flying and smashed heavily against the ground. He struggled a few times, but to no avail. All the muscles and bones in his body were in a mess, and he was severely injured. Immortal Reverent Realm? The expression on Zhong Lilang's face kept changing as a fearful expression appeared on his face. Right now, he was still one step away from becoming an Immortal King. The distance between the Immortal King realm and the Immortal Exalt realm was like a natural chasm, and there was utterly no comparison. If not for his strong physical body, he would have been smashed into smithereens by that slap. Moreover, the other party seemed to know the strength of his physical body, and his attacks were neither light nor heavy. Just based on this level of control, the person in front of him was definitely a peerless old monster. Could he be Zhong Lilun? Thinking of this, Zhong Lilang's pupils constricted, and his expression turned grim. Zhong Lilun was a lone wolf, and he was able to fend off an army by himself. Within the same realm, no one was a match for him. Even the main family's patriarch, Zhong Lixiao, couldn't do anything to him. What was the purpose of this guy's visit? A wave of uneasiness surged in his heart. I shouldn't have sent a distress signal. I hope you won't come. Zhong Lilang muttered with a bitter expression. In front of absolute strength, no matter how many people there were, it would be no different from throwing their lives away. Tell me, where is the godly cunning immortal? Zhong Lilun looked at Zhong Lilang and said in an ice-cold voice, "Godly cunning immortal? Did he come to find trouble with the young master? The young master is currently cultivating with the body of a mortal, so he cannot break his Tao heart. Not to mention that he didn't know where the young master was. Even if he knew, he wouldn't say it out loud. Dream on." These two indifferent words represented Zhong Lilang's current attitude. Since you want to die so much, this old man will fulfill your wish. Zhong Lilun extended his hand and clenched it lightly. Buzz! The surrounding air changed along with his hand, forming a large transparent hand that grabbed Zhong Lilang and gripped him tightly. Gotcha! The sound of bones breaking rang out continuously. Zhong Lilang fell to the ground, and his breathing was very weak. "I'll give you one last chance. Speak or die," Zhong Lilun said. Zhong Lilang grinned as he continuously spat out blood. "Don't even think about it." Zhong Lilun sneered when he saw this. "Since you won't speak, I have my ways to make you speak." After saying that, Zhong Lilun released his divine will and enveloped the entire Supreme Court. Suddenly, his scalp exploded, and the expression on his face kept changing. That is, his divine will directly stared at the attic courtyard where Sun Hao had lived before. 3 immortal divine medicines. God, those fruit trees, they're all supreme immortal fruit trees. I'm rich. I didn't expect that the old man would run into such great luck. At this moment, there was only endless excitement in Zhong Lilun's heart. The pain of losing his son had long since disappeared. He stepped forward and walked into the attic. Seeing this scene, Zhong Lilang's face changed drastically. No, that's the young master's place. However, Zhong Lilun walked straight inside, as if he didn't hear it. Suddenly, Zhong Lilun's footsteps paused and looked down. He found that Zhong Lilang had come to his side at some point, hugging his feet with his body. "Get lost." Zhong Lilun gently exerted force and kicked Zhong Lilang away. Puff! A mouthful of blood flew out of Zhong Lilang's mouth. Boom! He fell heavily to the ground and struggled a few times, but he couldn't stand up. Zhong Lilun's footsteps did not stop and continued to walk to the courtyard. Without any suspense, he stood in the middle of the courtyard. Looking at the 3 cabbages, Zhong Lilun's body trembled with excitement, and his eyes bloomed with a strange light. Great, this old man can finally get the immortal divine medicine. He stretched out his hand and carefully picked it. seeing that he was about to pick the cabbages. At this time, Buzz, there was a roar in the sky. A figure stepped out of the sky. He had silver hair and was holding half a hatchet in his hand. The person who came was Chun Daoming. After his divine will swept, he couldn't help but be angry. Without any hesitation, he picked up the hatchet and slashed at Zhong Liluan. Zhong Liluan's face changed slightly, and he waved his right hand. Ooh! A shield enveloped the entire attic. Boom! There was a loud noise. The shield kept swaying as if it would burst at any time. The whole world was shaking violently. Ooh! Chun Daoming's body flew backward, and it took a lot of strength to stabilize his figure. He looked at Zhong Liluan, and his eyes were full of fear. Immortal Supreme? In Chun Daoming's eyes, there was the most dignified color in history. Fortunately, I didn't let them come, otherwise they would all die here. Zhong Liluan looked at Chun Daoming, and his face showed a hint of surprise. I didn't expect that there would be an immortal king in the small purple sun star. This is a little interesting. You dare to destroy this old man's immortal divine medicine. Today, no one can save you. Zhong Liluan's face was full of cold, killing intent. With a wave of his right hand, he took the fruit tree and the cabbages into the soul space. You can also take the young master's things. Today you must die. Chun Daoming's eyes were blood red, like a mad lion, holding the hatchet with both hands. Buzz the world trembled. The sky instantly changed color. The sunlight was like silk, turning into wisps of golden light, and poured into the hatchet. The hatchet changed rapidly, growing bigger and bigger, and in the blink of an eye, it formed a 1,000-meter giant knife. The golden light in the sky surged from the hatchet. Above the giant knife, it exuded the power to destroy everything. This was the heaven-destroying blade that Chun Daoming realized. What a powerful knife intent. What a terrifying knife power. What an irresistible knife power. 3 into 1. Merge into 1. In this world, there is such a knife Dao genius. If he is allowed to grow, it will be terrible. Zhong Liluan snorted coldly, rushed to the sky, stretched out his hand, aimed at the big hand that covered the sky, and grabbed it. In the next second, Zhong Liluan's face changed dramatically, and he secretly said that it was not good. P.S. Group 9477828868. Looking forward to your joining. Chapter 350. Kacha! A sound rang out. Zhong Liluan's outstretched hand was cut into two by the giant blade. Whoosh! The broken hand and body fell straight down like a kite with a broken string. Boom! There was an explosion. Zhong Liluan blasted into the ground, struggled for a long time, and then stood up. He looked at Chun Daoming, the corners of his mouth raised. A little interesting. Zhong Liluan's face was full of a cold smile. A stream of immortal power gushed out from his broken hand. Goo-goo! The muscles and meridians were rapidly intertwined. In less than a moment, the broken arm grew again. Broken limb rebirth. He is at least a second-grade immortal. Chun Daoming's face was full of fear. The move just now had already extracted all the immortal power in his body. Unexpectedly, it only made Zhong Liluan lose an arm. The gap in the realm was like a sky cushion in front of him. No matter how powerful his talent was, there was basically no chance of winning a challenge across a big realm. Dare to take the young master's things, I will fight you. Chun Daoming stroked his silver hair, picked up the hatchet, and rushed over. Overestimating yourself. Zhong Liluan jumped up and instantly fought with Chun Daoming. Boom! The sound of explosions continued, and the waves of air billowed. Zhong Liluan looked indifferent, and every blow seemed very casual. Chun Daoming was completely suppressed and had no power to fight back. The more he fought, the more shocked Zhong Liluan became. The physical body is so terrifying, interesting, but so what? In the face of absolute strength, you have no chance of winning. I don't want to play anymore. After this sound, boom! Chun Daoming's body turned into a stream of light and fell rapidly to the ground, exploding dust into the sky. After struggling a few times, he could not stand up. Come! Zhong Liluan stretched out his right hand. Ooh! Chen Daoming's body flew straight up uncontrollably and fell into Zhong Liluan's hand. The old man only keeps useful people. Say, where is the godly cunning immortal? Zhong Liluan asked. Bah, kill me if you want. Chen Daoming spat out a mouthful of saliva, without the slightest concession. Zhong Liluan smiled coldly. I hope you can still be so stubborn later. Who? Zhong Liluan waved his right hand, and a few strands of purple light drilled into Chen Daoming's body like vipers. Chen Daoming's face twisted in pain, his teeth clenched, and he was silent. Soon, Chen Daoming fainted in pain. Such tough bones. Who the hell is this godly, cunning immortal, worthy of your protection? I want to see how long you can last. Zhong Liluan waved his right hand, and a few strands of purple light drilled out of Chen Daoming's body. Not long after, Chen Daoming woke up slowly. If you don't want to be tortured, just tell me the truth, Zhong Liluan said. Old thing, don't even think about knowing. After that, Chen Daoming closed his eyes and remained motionless. It's fine if you don't say it, but I'll kill Zhongli Lang. Zhong Liluan pointed at Zhongli Lang and threatened. A touch of heartache flashed in Chen Daoming's eyes. Then he raised his head high. If you kill him, what does that have to do with me? If you want to kill him, then kill him. You. Zhong Liluan's expression froze. He actually encountered such a tough bone to chew. Let me see how hard your bones are. A few strands of purple light quickly drilled into Chen Daoming's body. Endless pain kept coming. Chen Daoming clenched his teeth and didn't say a word. Soon, he fainted from the pain again. Under Zhong Liluan's torture, he didn't get any information out. Zhong Liluan clenched his teeth, and his eyes bloomed with a cold smile. Since you don't care about him, it's good. Okay, I will slaughter the world. See if you still say it. Then let's start with this Supreme Court. After saying that, Zhong Liluan pointed his right hand to the sky. Buzz, the sky shook rapidly. Layers of blood-colored ripples emerged. Blood wolves emerged from the ripples one after another, overwhelming, covering the entire sky. Each blood wolf exuded the aura of the immortal king realm. At a glance, it made people's scalp tingle in cold sweat. On the square of the Supreme Court, many immortal cultivators stood on it, looking up at the scene in the sky, cold sweat running down their faces. God, so many blood wolves. What a terrifying aura. These are all blood wolves of the immortal king realm. Is this to destroy our Supreme Court? Everyone muttered to themselves, their eyes full of horror. A terrifying pressure fell from Xuelang's body and enveloped every cultivator. At this moment, their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Their bodies seemed to be carrying a huge mountain, and it was extremely difficult to struggle. Plop. One by one, they knelt on the ground, shivering. Chen Daoming looked at this scene, and his face changed again and again, extremely ugly. It's all my fault. It's all my fault that I'm not strong enough. The crisis came so soon, and I can't even protect the Tianluo continent. Young master, I'm sorry, I'm useless. Chen Daoming closed his eyes, and tears fell. He couldn't bear to see this miserable scene. Zhong Liluan smiled coldly, a smug smile on his face. You finally found your weakness, right? This time, see if you still don't say it. Kid, I'll give you one last chance, say it or not. Don't rush to answer, because your answer is related to the lives of tens of thousands. No, tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of people. Even your family is among them. Zhong Liluan said. Family? Chen Daoming's body trembled. It seemed to touch a switch that shouldn't be touched. Memories rushed down like a sluice gate. Good baby, let mother come and hug you. Good boy, my little Ming is the most well-behaved. Wow, so powerful. He reached the immortal king realm at such a young age. He's already 5 years old, and he's only at the immortal king realm. What's there to show off? He's my son. Father, the child will work hard to become stronger. Then the scene changed. Another memory poured into his mind. The place was in front of a mountain forest. The one holding him was a middle-aged man. Uncle, what's wrong? We're father and mother. Little Ming, it's okay, don't worry. Where is this? This is the supreme heavenly realm. What? We came to the heavenly realm. That's great. Is there really a God here? Little Ming, of course there is. Your father took great pains to send you here. You must work hard and become a god. Uncle, I will. The heavenly realm is the same as our human realm. There are many sections. The one Uncle chose for you is the Overlord sect, which is very powerful in the heavenly realm. That's great. I'll definitely work hard. By the way, where is my immortal power? Why is it gone? How did I become immortal? Little Ming, when we get to the heavenly realm, we are mortals, and everything has to start from scratch. Little Ming, work hard. These two pictures kept intertwining in his mind. Chen Daoming held his head and let out a painful scream. No. Seeing Chen Daoming's appearance, the corners of Zhong Liluan's mouth rose, and his face was full of pride. If you want him not to die, then hurry up and say it. Zhong Liluan said. Chen Daoming gradually became clear, and his expression returned to normal. He looked at Zhong Liluan and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Bah! Zhong Liluan's face was distorted, and his expression was ugly. In that case, well, kill them for me. Howl! The blood wolf roared, descended from the sky, and rushed straight to the people of the Supreme Court. Chapter 351. No, no. It's over, it's over. Looking at the blood wolves with monstrous auras pouncing on them, everyone was immersed in endless despair. He looked on. The blood wolf was about to pounce on them. At this moment, woo! Sorrowful cries rang out. All the blood wolves stopped. They crawled in the air, shivering. With his tail blocking behind him, the hairs on his strength department stood on end, and his eyes were filled with fear. It was as if they had met their natural enemy. What's going on? Zhong Liluan revealed a puzzled expression. He looked around, and his expression changed slightly. They saw a handsome young man sat on top of a 5-meter-tall blood wolf. As the young man raised his hand, Taoist rhymes circulated and immortal energy fluttered. He looked like a heavenly god descending from the heavens, imposing without being angry. It was Sun Hao. He looked at Zhong Liluan and said indifferently, "Are you looking for me?" His voice wasn't loud, but it reverberated throughout the world. This sound rose. The pressure that was pressing down on everyone instantly disintegrated. The crowd rose from their seats and raised their heads toward the sky. Their eyes emitted a strange glow. Young Master is here. That's great. I didn't expect that Young Master would save us again. The Young Master has changed. Everyone muttered to themselves, and the light of worship swept Sun Hao in waves. Zhong Liluan was slightly stunned when he heard this. He looked at Sun Hao and used all kinds of secret methods. No matter how he looked at it, Sun Hao did not have any power fluctuations, just like a mortal. That's impossible. How could the godly cunning immortal be immortal? If that was the case, would he be able to brew those immortal brews? Could he kill an immortal with a single punch? Could it be that it wasn't him who did it, but the immortal king-level blood wolf under his command? However, how could a mere mortal make a celestial king submit? At this moment, Zhong Liluan's mind was filled with confusion, and he was unable to understand what was going on. Who dares to kill my son? No matter who he is, he must die. Zhong Liluan secretly made a decision and took 2 steps forward. You are the godly cunning immortal? I guess so. His strength was already not weaker than Rumeng's. There should be nothing wrong with admitting that he was the godly cunning immortal, right? Sun Hao's temperament was outstanding, and there was no embarrassment. There was a cold smile on Zhong Liluan's face. Did you kill Zhongli Jing Tian? Zhong Liluan asked. Zhongli Jing Tian? Sun Hao frowned slightly, revealing a thoughtful look. Then, he came to a realization. Not long ago, he had borrowed Rumeng's power to kill Zhongli Jing Tian. Who asked him to be so arrogant and despotic, disregarding human life? It would be difficult to quell the anger of the people without killing them. Could this person be his father, Zhongli Xiao? After killing the young one, the old one came? This world was indeed like this. However, wasn't this too fast? He had just collected enough blessing points and hadn't had time to cultivate yet. Just nice. I can use him in practice and see how strong my supreme physique is. Are you Zhongli Xiao? Sun Hao asked. Zhongli Xiao. Haha. This old man is Zhongli Luan, Zhongli Jingtian's uncle. Brat, this old man won't waste words with you. Brew 1,000-year-old immortal wine for this old man. I will consider giving you a quick death. Zhong Liluan looked at Sun Hao, showing an expression as if he was going to eat him. What if not? Sun Hao looked at Zhongli Lang, who was seriously injured and unconscious, and a trace of killing intent flashed. Otherwise, you will be tortured and leave this world with hatred. These words just finished. Puff! In Sun Hao's hand, a wisp of white flame rose. This sudden sound startled Zhongli Luan. A mortal could actually use the great Tao flame. He narrowed his eyes, released a secret technique, and swept it directly into Sun Hao's hand. No matter how he looked at it, the flame in Sun Hao's hand was also ordinary, and it seemed to have no power. Brat, you don't want to use this flame to deal with this old man, do you? You want to hurt this old man with this? Dream on. Before he finished speaking, whoosh, the white flame turned into thousands of strands and quickly pounced on all the blood wolves. Puff! In just an instant, all the blood wolves were burned to ashes. When the wind blew, nothing was left. Until death, they didn't let out a scream. Zhong Liluan looked around in a daze, and cold sweat dripped from his forehead. A wisp of ordinary flame burned thousands of immortal king realm blood wolves into ashes. This method was simply unimaginable. Even he himself was far from it. Could it be that he was not a mortal, but an immortal an immortal emperor? Thinking of this, Zhong Liluan's body trembled for a while, and his whole person had no intention to fight. At this moment, he just wanted to escape. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, Zhong Liluan's figure turned into an escape light and fled quickly. Did I let you go? The words were spoken. The immortal power around him rushed rapidly, forming a cage, trapping Zhong Liluan in place in an instant. The immortal power cage seemed to have no power. However, there was no reaction when it was blasted on it. After exhausting all methods, Zhong Liluan could not break free. Damn it! If I knew, I should have listened to Zhong Lizi. Thinking of this, Zhong Liluan's face was full of regret. Don't come over. If you come over again, don't blame this old man for destroying this place. Let me go. I won't bother you again. This is good for you. I'm good. Everyone is good. Zhong Liluan said each word, and his voice was full of trembling. Sun Hao walked towards Zhong Liluan step by step, as if he didn't hear it. Let you go? Do you think it's possible? Supreme Court, tens of thousands of lives, you want to kill them? If you can't beat them, you want me to let you go? Sun Hao's voice was full of killing intent. It's just a group of ants. Why do you care so much about them? For them, you offended my Zhongli family like this. Is it worth it? If this old man dies, not to mention the Zhongli family, even the Milky Way team will not let you go. Zhong Liluan let out a hysterical roar. Ants? In my opinion, you are the ants. Today you must die. The voice was not loud, but it revealed a shocking momentum. Zhong Liluan didn't speak, just looked at Sun Hao coldly. At the corner of his mouth, there was a faint smile. That expression seemed to control everything. Zhong Liluan smiled slightly. Kid, thank you for listening to me talk so much nonsense. Next, prepare to accept destruction. Ha! Zhong Liluan looked up to the sky and laughed like crazy. The voice reverberated between heaven and earth. As the laughter sounded, the calm sky suddenly surged with black clouds. The whole world was instantly dark, and he couldn't stretch out his fingers. The black clouds rotated quickly, shrouding the entire Supreme Court. As a red light lit up, a blood-colored claw came out of the black clouds. This claw, shrouding the world, emitted a cold and violent aura. These auras, with shocking pressure, shrouded everyone. At this moment, the people of the Supreme Court were like sinking into hell, and their bodies trembled violently. Endless fear, like black ants crawling all over their bodies. What is this thing so big? It's terrible. I feel like I'm walking into hell. It's over. Are we going to be finished? Chapter 352. Everyone in the entire Supreme Court was in endless despair. Zhong Liluan looked at this scene, and his eyes were full of a cold smile. Kid, forcing the seat to summon the Hell Blood Wolf King. You are all dead. It will definitely turn the entire Tianluo continent into a hell. Just you wait. You're still too tender to fight with me. Kid, tell you, don't give the person you can kill in the future a chance to make a big move. Huh. Zhong Lilun looked up to the sky and laughed like crazy. That expression was as if he had obtained the ultimate treasure, which was indescribable. However, he laughed and laughed, then he froze. He looked at the sky, his face full of disbelief, only to see a huge wolf head poked down from the vortex and directly scanned the world. The terrifying pressure shrouded all directions. The wolf head's eyes stared directly at Sun Hao. At this moment, there was an incomparable panic in the eyes of the wolf head. That expression was as if it had seen the most terrifying thing in the world. Without any hesitation, the wolf head quickly retracted, drilled into the clouds, and disappeared. The black clouds gradually dissipated, and the surroundings returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. Zhong Lilun opened his mouth wide, and he was so surprised that he didn't recover for a long time. What happened? The Hell Blood Wolf King actually ran away? What did it see? Could it be this godly, cunning immortal in front of him? How could this be? Zhong Lilun stared at Sun Hao, his face full of disbelief. In the next second, he was horrified to find that his strength was rapidly losing. No, it was quickly being sealed. What's going on? Who sealed it? Could it be him? One look, and he sealed his whole body's strength? Oh my God, what kind of existence did I provoke? It's over, it's over. Zhong Lilun muttered to himself, and his face was full of horror. Sun Hao stared at him, his eyes full of cold, killing intent. He would slaughter a city at every turn. He would slaughter a continent if he didn't agree. Ordinary people were just ants in his eyes. How could such a person stay in the world? Oh, Sun Hao grabbed Zhong Lilun's neck, and his eyes burst with monstrous anger. Spare my life. Otherwise you will... Before he finished his words, boom, a punch flew over. Instantly, Zhong Lilun's head exploded into powder. Then his body exploded, and he could not be more dead. Bang! Even his soul space exploded along with it. All the items exploded into dust. The soul that wanted to escape also exploded into nothingness. At this moment, the surroundings were deathly silent. The people of the Supreme Court stared blankly at this scene, and for a while, it was difficult to calm down. Gratitude, excitement, this kind of emotion surged in everyone's heart. At this moment, Sun Hao was like a god, shrouding everyone's heart. After a long while, dead? You killed him with one punch? An immortal venerable expert is so weak in front of the young master. Just how strong is the young master? Even the soul space can be easily destroyed. Even his soul couldn't escape. Young master must be an invincible existence. Cries of surprise rang out continuously. His fiery gaze swept across the room. Excitement rose and fell one after another. Chun Dao Ming stared blankly at Sun Hao, and the look in his eyes was extremely complicated. 2 lines of tears slipped down unconsciously in his eyes. Young master, you are so kind to us. Every time we are in a crisis, you will save us. How can Dao Ming repay your great kindness? Chun Dao Ming muttered to himself, grateful. Then he flew to Sun Hao and saluted with his fists. Young master, thank you for your life-saving grace. Brother Chun, don't be polite with me. Sun Hao patted Chun Dao Ming on the shoulder and said, Yes, young master. Chun Dao Ming nodded. Young master. At this time, Huang Rumeng flew over with the ancient rift sky. Chun Dao Ming looked at the ancient rift sky, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes. The ancient rift sky looked like a little tiger, but it was actually extremely not simple. Let's go down first. See how the Grandine is doing? Okay. Everyone landed and came to Zhong Lilong. After Sun Hao checked the meridians, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He could still be saved. Sun Hao took out some brewed medicine and gave it to Zhong Lilong. Zhong Lilong's body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it was restored to its original state. A moment later, Zhong Lilong opened his eyes, and when he saw Sun Hao, he immediately stood up. Plop! He directly knelt in front of Sun Hao and kowtowed. Young master, your life-saving grace. Old Lang can't repay it. Courtyard, please get up. Don't be polite. Sun Hao helped Zhong Lilong up. Plop! However, Zhong Lilong knelt on the ground again and kowtowed heavily. Young master, I am incompetent. I can't even guard your residence well. The fruit trees and vegetables you planted were all taken away by Zhong Lilong. I can't absolve myself of blame. Please punish me. Zhong Lilong burst into tears. Don't mind that little thing. It can be planted at any time. Sun Hao gave Huang Rumeng a look. Huang Rumeng nodded, walked into the courtyard, and began to sow seeds. Sun Hao took out the ancient zither and began to play. Zhong! The sound of the zither sounded, and wisps of colorful light flowed out from Sun Hao's fingertips, surging throughout the courtyard. Oh! In less than a moment, in the backyard, there were vegetables and fruit trees flowing with colorful light. Chen Daoming and Zhong Lilong looked at this scene and were shocked for a long time. The colorful light is immortal power. What is this colorful light? Could it be the legendary spirit essence? Thinking of this, Chen Daoming's head exploded. How do I know spirit essence? Then, he opened his mouth wide and murmured for a long time without coming back to his senses. Young master, I didn't expect you to be a god. Zhong! The sound of the zither continued to ring. Fruit trees and vegetables couldn't absorb all of it at all. The overflowing colorful light, centered on Sun Hao, flowed like a colorful cloud, rippling outward. When the colorful light poured into his body, Chen Daoming quickly sat cross-legged on the ground and began to absorb it. Others were no exception, and they all used their cultivation techniques to devour these colorful lights. Even the blood wolf and the sky-shattering ancient beast were lying on the ground with serious expressions on their faces. Zhong! The sound of the zither did not stop and continued to ring. Like a torrential rain, the colorful light rushed out. Soon, the entire Supreme Court was shrouded in it. What kind of power is this? Taking a breath. It feels like a person can live for another 100 years. Don't be stunned. This is the good fortune that young master gave us. Let's cultivate quickly. After being stunned, everyone sat cross-legged on the ground and began to absorb these colorful lights. The colorful lights gathered more and more, and it was difficult to digest for a while. Others poured into the ground, converging into veins, nourishing all living beings. At this moment, all the trees and flowers were quietly changing. Sun Hao didn't know about this. At this moment, he was immersed in playing the zither. P.S. Group 947782868. Looking forward to your joining. Please monthly votes. Please monthly votes. Chapter 353. Plop. A sound rang out. Zhong Lizi was tied up by Zhong Lilang and knelt in front of Sun Hao. Young master. Zhong Lilun was brought here by him. Zhong Lilang said. In. Sun Hao nodded and glanced at Zhong Li. They saw. There was no expression on Zhong Lizi's face. His eyes were filled with despair. He was already in despair, unable to find any chance of survival. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Zhong Lizi spat out these few words. What's going on? Sun Hao asked. Young master, it's like this. Zhong Lilang recounted the matter. After Sun Hao heard it, he frowned slightly, the head of the 9 immortals of the human race. Zhong Lizi, why does he look like this? Sun Hao asked. Young master, I presume that the Zhongli clan has already been slaughtered by Zhongli Luan. Zhong Lilang said. Do you have anything to say? Sun Hao looked at Zhong Lilang and asked. If you want to kill me, then kill me. I won't even frown. Zhong Lizi raised his head high, showing no sign of backing down. Do you want to die like this? Sun Hao asked. All my clansmen are dead. What's the point of me living? Please give me a quick death. Zhong Lizi said. Sun Hao smiled slightly and stood up. As the 9th spirit of the human race, you should be protecting the human race, not your Zhongli family. As the head of the 9 immortals, have you ever protected the human race? These two sentences carried with them the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas, causing Zhong Lizi's head to rumble. The shackles in his heart seemed to shatter at this moment. At this moment, it was as if he had been enlightened. He found the meaning of living. On his face, there was an incomparable radiance. "Young master, I understand." He faced Sun Hao and performed the ceremony of 3 kneeling and 9 kowtows. "Your great kindness will be engraved into my heart. If you don't kill me, then I'll leave," Zhong Lizi said. "Go." Sun Hao gently waved his hand, and Zhong Lizi stood up and bowed back. Then, he turned into a streak of light and sped away. "First President, I've come to you this time because I need your help with something." As soon as these words came out, boom! It was like thunder in Chun Daoming's ears. The test had come. I must remember young master's every word. "Young master, if you have any instructions, feel free to speak," said Zhongli Lang. "It is said that the Supreme Court collects all the cultivation methods in the world. Is there such a thing?" Sun Hao asked. "Yes." Zhongli Lang nodded. "I need a cultivation technique now. Can you help me find one?" As soon as these words came out, Chun Daoming was shocked. The young master needed cultivation methods. What young master was using now was God essence. How could an ordinary cultivation method enter the young master's discerning eyes? There was only one reason why the young master was telling him all this. That would require a God-tier cultivation technique. Chun Daoming secretly remembered. "Young master, please wait for a moment. I'll be right there." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhongli Lang left swiftly. Chun Daoming was restless, showing a look of anxiety. Since the young master needs a cultivation technique, something big must have happened. I must help the young master find a cultivation technique as soon as possible. There was no time to lose. The more he thought, the more anxious Chun Daoming became. "Brother Chun, is there something urgent?" Sun Hao asked. "Young master." Chun Daoming scratched his head, showing a touch of embarrassment. "Brother Chun, you can leave first if you have something to do. You don't have to stay here," Sun Hao said. "Thank you, young master." Chun Daoming saluted with his fists and left quickly. Not long after Chun Daoming left, Zhongli Lang came in a hurry. With a wave of his hand, books piled up in front of Sun Hao like a mountain. Each book recorded a cultivation technique. "Why are they all recorded in books, not in jade slips?" Sun Hao asked. "Young master, to engrave the cultivation technique information in the jade slips, you need to be an immortal emperor powerhouse to do it," Zhongli Lang said. Hearing this, Sun Hao showed a sudden expression. It turned out to be so. Unexpectedly, the cultivation technique that Ru Ming gave him turned out to be left by an immortal emperor powerhouse. Such a powerful cultivation technique, Ru Ming did not hold back and directly gave it to him. Thinking of this, Sun Hao looked at Huang Rumeng and nodded secretly. "Young master, it's all here. What do you need? I'll help you find it," Zhongli Lang said. Hearing this, Sun Hao's face showed a touch of embarrassment. "If I know, I don't need you to say it." "No, I'll find it myself." Sun Hao picked up a copy of 9 Tribulations Finger and began to check it. A series of incantations poured into his Sun Hao's mind. He couldn't forget it even if he wanted to. Sun Hao stood in place, thinking secretly, his face showing a dignified expression. These incantations, after memorizing, would automatically evolve in his mind. At this moment, Sun Hao clearly felt that he could already use the 9 Tribulations Finger. However, this 9 Tribulations Finger, compared with the previous one, the entire incantation had completely changed. "Ru Ming, help me grind ink," Sun Hao said. "Yes, young master." Sun Hao took the pen and wrote the incantation in his mind in the blank space of the 9 Tribulations Finger. The originally mighty hundreds of lines of incantation under Sun Hao's pen turned into 8 sentences. After writing, Sun Hao threw the 9 Tribulations Finger aside and continued to pick up the next book. What did young master write? With doubts, Zhongli Lang picked up the 9 Tribulations Finger and began to check it. The next second, Zhongli Lang's eyes widened, looking at these 8 sentences, and he stood there dumbfounded. It was not that he didn't want to move, but he couldn't move. At this moment, the scenery in front of him had completely changed. At this moment, he came to a certain space. In the space, a powerful figure stood, practicing finger techniques. A finger flicked. Boom! The rubble collapsed, and the dust rose to the sky. In Zhongli Lang's eyes, his scalp couldn't help but explode, and cold sweat flowed. Is this the real Nine Tribulations finger? Zhongli Lang was puzzled, and in the next second, his face changed dramatically. Another finger flicked. Boom! The giant mountain collapsed, and the sun and moon lost their light. The power of this finger was at least 10 times stronger. In the roar, Zhongli Lang's consciousness was directly knocked back into his body. He stood in place, muttering for a long time without speaking. The young master was actually transforming the cultivation method. After the transformation, the consciousness could sink into it and directly observe. This was much easier to cultivate than the bitter incantation. God, will the young master finish transforming all these cultivation methods? What does the young master mean? No, I'm going to ask Leader Luo. Only she can understand the young master's meaning. Zhongli Lang stood uneasily, staring at Sun Hao. He saw that Sun Hao had already changed to the third cultivation method. This cultivation method had the name Buddha's Palm written on it. Why is this name so familiar? Could it be that there was a Buddha in this world? Since there is a six-eared monkey, it must be reasonable to have a Buddha-like dream. He opened Buddha's palm and memorized those incantations. He automatically deduced in his mind. After a while, Sun Hao shook his head for a while. Weak, too weak. Where's this Buddha's palm? It's better to call it weak chicken palm. Forget it. Let's use my incantation. Sun Hao waved his brush and wrote down the incantation in the blank space of Buddha's palm. Subsequently, Buddha's palm was erased and changed to rumbling heaven. Since then, Buddha's palm became rumbling heaven. Group 947782868. Looking forward to your joining. Asking for monthly votes. Chapter 354. Great Demon Mountain. At the foot of the mountain to the west of Sun Hao's residence, in a secret attic room, there were 3 people sitting in the secret chamber. It was Flower Fairy, Luo Luyin, and Chun Daoming. That's what happened, said Chun Daoming. Luo Luyin breathed a sigh of relief and secretly said that it was dangerous. Fortunately, the young master arrived in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. It seems that I still underestimated them and didn't prepare earlier. Luo Luyin was ashamed. Alliance leader Luo, don't say that. You're the one who understands young master the best. Chun Daoming looked at Luo Luyin with admiration. By the way, the cultivation method that the young master said he needed, is it a god-level cultivation method? Luo Luyin frowned slightly. If it's really as you said, then the young master really needs a god-tier cultivation technique. However, the god-level cultivation method is generally owned by the gods. In the past million years, the gods have not appeared. Where can I find it? Luo Luyin sighed secretly and looked helpless. I know of 3 places that definitely have god-level techniques, the Flower Fairy said. Hearing this, Luo Luyin's eyes flickered. Where? They are Rulai Buddhist Kingdom, Emperor Burial Island, and Spring of Sin. However, these 3 places are all extremely dangerous. Even if it's the Gautama Buddhist Kingdom, only Buddhist disciples who are recognized can enter. If the others go rashly, I'm afraid they will lose their lives. Legend has it that there were a few powerful gods who went to Rulai's Buddhist country and never came out again, said the Flower Fairy. What about the other 2? Chun Daoming asked. As for this Emperor Burial Island, it is said to be the place where deities fell during the ancient dark period. There must be a lot of cultivation methods left behind by the gods there. However, even celestial emperors cannot leave that place. The danger level of that place is no less than that of the forbidden area, the Flower Fairy said. As soon as these words came out, Chun Daoming took a deep breath. The Forbidden Land was a place that no one was willing to talk about. It was the most dangerous place on every habitable planet. He did not expect the Emperor Burial Island to be so terrifying. Just thinking about it gave him a lingering fear. What about the source of sin? Chun Daoming's face had the last glimmer of hope. As for the source of sin, although it's not as dangerous as the other two places, it's still far more dangerous than ordinary forbidden zones. That place was also the battlefield of the deities during the Dark Age. Countless abyssal monsters died there, and many deities also died there, leaving behind their legacies. There must be a lot of deity-level cultivation methods there. However, after the abyssal monsters die, they give birth to a large amount of sinful aura. Once one comes into contact with it, it will affect one's mind. If it's light, one's mind will be deranged, and one will be unable to determine the direction. If it's heavy, one will suffer from chi deviation and perish. Apart from the sinful aura, there are also many chaotic flows of divine might. Those who haven't reached the immortal Emperor realm can't possibly resist them. If they don't dodge in time, they will basically die. In addition, it is said that the monsters there are also extremely powerful and difficult to deal with. Even an immortal Emperor expert can't guarantee that he will be able to come out after entering. The Flower Fairy's words caused the two's expressions to change continuously. It's so dangerous, President Shun. I don't think you should go, Luo Luyan said. It is precisely because it is dangerous that I must go. How can a young master's test not be completed? Shen Dao Ming looked firm. Leader Chun, it's a matter of great importance. If you go rashly, I'm afraid, the Flower Fairy said. It doesn't matter. If I can do something for the young master, what's the harm in dying? Chun Dao Ming's eyes flashed with a strange light, and his face showed a firmness that had never been seen before. Let me tell you, after listening to the young master's song today, my physical body has grown to an unimaginable level. Ordinary immortal venerables in front of me can't stand a punch from me. His realm has also reached the 9th grade immortal king realm. As soon as these words came out, the Flower Fairy and Luo Luyan's pupils shrank, and their eyes were full of envy. When Shun Dao Ming went to the Supreme Court to support, he was only a 1st grade immortal king. Unexpectedly, when he came back, he had reached the 9th grade immortal king. It was simply unimaginable how many times his strength had increased. From the 1st grade to the 9th grade immortal king. This is simply, it seems that the young master has become stronger again. Yeah, I don't know if the young master has finished his cultivation as a mortal. I really hope it's over, so that if there's anything, we can ask the young master directly. No, Luo Luyan directly refused. Even if the young master's cultivation is over, you can't ask. The karma of the world is too complicated. Once the young master is involved in it, I'm afraid it will lead to a shocking crisis. We must not ask directly before we have absolute strength, Luo Luyan said solemnly. The Flower Fairy nodded and looked at Luo Luyan, their eyes blooming with a strange light. Leader Luo, have you cultivated the great Tao of karma? Yes. The more I cultivate karma, the more I feel the horror of this great Tao. Every word of a person like the young master can involve a lot of karma. So you can't ask casually, Luo Luyan said. Well, we understand. The two nodded heavily. Elder Hua, where is the source of sin? Chen Dao Ming asked. The source of sin is 1,000,000 kilometers northeast of the Tianluo continent. There's an extremely cold place there, and the entrance is at the extreme point. The Flower Fairy said. In that case, it's not too late. Then I will leave first. Chen Dao Ming said. Wait, I will bring people with you. Luo Luyan said. Chen Dao Ming was taken aback, then shook his head slightly. Leader Luo, your current strength is not enough. People are good, but not many. This time, I alone am enough. The young master will be back soon. If there are any instructions, you need to worry about it. Chen Dao Ming said. Hearing this, Luo Luyan looked startled, then nodded slightly. Okay, be careful. Don't worry. Chen Dao Ming stroked his silver hair, showing a confident look. He took a step, his figure flickered, and left quickly. When Chen Dao Ming left, Luo Luyan sighed heavily. AI, Leader Luo, why are you sighing? The Flower Fairy asked. Elder Hua, I have a bad feeling that something big is going to happen soon, Luo Luyan said. Hearing this, the Flower Fairy's body trembled. I also have this feeling. I thought it was an illusion. Everything is clear. Everything is under our control, but it's scary. The flower fairy said. Yes, with our current strength, in the face of such a crisis, I'm afraid we don't even have the qualifications to be cannon fodder. Luo Luyan said. Then don't just stand there. Let's hurry to the Tai Chi Divine Tower to cultivate. Okay. The two, one in front and one behind, quickly rushed to the Tai Chi Divine Tower. Soon, the two entered the Tai Chi Divine Tower. Not long after the two entered the Tai Chi Divine Tower, over the great demon mountain. Buzz, the sky shook with layers of ripples. A girl in a white robe walked out of the ripples and stood in the sky. Chapter 355. On the Great Demon Mountain. Buzz, the sky shook with layers of ripples, and a girl walked out of it. There was no expression on her delicate facial features. If Sun Hao was here and saw this girl, he would be surprised, because, from the appearance, she looked very similar to Huang Roman. The difference was that this girl didn't have elven ears. Instead, she had a head of long black hair and black eyes. It seemed that she had the characteristics of an oriental beauty. Her plump figure was curvaceous and stylish, making people reluctant to look away. This person was from the Goblin clan, named Xuanmei. There, Xuanmei looked at the Tai Chi Divine Tower not far away, and a flash of light flashed. Soon, she returned to her normal look. She stood high in the sky, but watched from a distance, seemingly looking for a breakthrough. In other words, she was looking for an expert to guard. There is no strong aura. Is my secret method not good? Xuanmei stood in place, frowning slightly, with a thoughtful look. Who? She released her divine sense and shrouded the mansion where Sun Hao lived. After a while, she retracted her divine sense. Very ordinary, like a mortal residence. How can a mortal's residence have my clan's divine weapon? No matter, let's get it first. Otherwise, it's not good to be robbed by them first. Xuanmei used the corner of her eyes to look behind her, and the corner of her mouth raised a faint smile. Her figure flickered and disappeared instantly. Not long after she left. Buzz. In the sky, there were layers of ripples. A transparent figure slowly condensed and turned into a thin scholar. He stood in the sky, looking at Xuanmei's back, and the corner of his mouth raised a faint smile. Sure enough, it's the Goblin clan's divine weapon. Following this girl, I really found the divine weapon. After the thin scholar muttered to himself, he turned around and looked back at the void. I say, since you are here, don't hide. As soon as these words came out, a group of figures condensed and walked to the thin man's side. Ha, blue-faced scholar, I didn't expect you to come so soon. Presumably your old ancestor sent you. You are not the same. The skinny scholar looked at a muscular man with a scar on his face and said, The divine item is right in front of you. Why aren't you all moving? Blue-faced scholar, do you find it interesting to ask a question you already know the answer to? You can make the first move if you dare. Exactly. To be able to obtain such a divine artifact, which one of them isn't a powerhouse with heaven-defying means. We'll just watch. Don't be anxious. There are people who are more anxious than us. That girl will definitely rush forward. Isn't it better to go forward when there is no danger? Looking at these scheming fellows, the azure-faced scholar smiled and shook his head. He opened the folding fan in his hand and slowly fanned himself. It was indeed a little strange to fan himself in winter. Everyone is right. Let's just watch. The blue-faced scholar nodded slightly and glanced directly at Sun Hao's residence. They saw. Phew. Outside the courtyard, a figure slowly took shape. This person was Xuanmei. She stood at the entrance of the courtyard and gently knocked on the door. Is anyone home? However, at this moment, there was no one in the courtyard. Everyone cultivated in the Taiji Divine Pagoda. After asking a few times, Xuanmei relaxed. She pushed hard and found that the door was closed and could not be pushed open. It seems that no one is home. In that case, then, Xuanmei looked at the Taiji Divine Pagoda, and her eyes bloomed with a strange light. Then, she looked at the green jade scholar and the others hiding in the distance and smiled coldly. A group of cowards. Look at me. Xuanmei soared into the sky and flew quickly toward the Taiji Divine Pagoda. After she rushed into the front yard, her expression suddenly changed. Boundless pressure came from all directions, making it difficult for May to breathe and break out in a cold sweat. Not good. The words just fell. Boom! There was a loud noise. A huge force directly hit May's body. Suddenly, May's body flew out of the ninth heaven like a stream of light and disappeared. Such a scene scared the Green Jade Scholar and the others, and they couldn't calm down for a long time. This is the pressure of the immortal emperor. It really is the immortal emperor. Fortunately, I didn't rush over. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Too terrible. This is not weaker than the pressure of the old ancestor. A group of old monsters secretly wiped their cold sweat and secretly said that it was dangerous. The next second, everyone's face changed dramatically, and their whole body trembled violently. Buzz, the pressure of the immortal emperor quickly shrouded everyone. At this moment, they were breathless and had difficulty breathing. Their hearts seemed to stop beating, extremely uncomfortable. Get lost! A roar sounded in their ears. Everyone's body flew out uncontrollably, all flying out of the ninth heaven. Standing in the void, the green-faced scholar secretly wiped his cold sweat. That kind of fear and panic was written all over his face. The immortal emperor didn't kill us. Too dangerous, so terrible. Everyone, what should we do? Do we just give up? Oh, give up. Do you think it's possible? The divine tool came out. How can we let it go? After that, the green-faced scholar took out a message talisman, and it immediately attracted everyone's attention. Starfield message talisman? Green-faced scholar, you're really rich. As expected of the Green Feather sect, much richer than us. The light of envy kept sweeping over. When the green-faced scholar heard this, he shook his head for a while. You guys, don't pretend. Do you dare to say that you don't have a Starfield message talisman on you? As soon as these words came out, everyone showed a look of shame. One by one, they took out the Starfield message talisman and began to send messages. After sending messages to each old ancestor, everyone gathered together again. I say, everyone, what should we do now? What else can we do? In front of that level of immortal emperor powerhouse, we have no power to fight. We can only wait for the old ancestor to come over. Presumably with the strength of all the old ancestors, we will definitely be able to get the divine tool. There is only one divine tool. After getting it, how should we divide it? We don't have to worry about this. The old ancestors will find a way to distribute it. I really hope that the old ancestors will come soon. If the big forces come, there will be nothing for us to do. Several people muttered to themselves, looking at the void, their eyes full of expectation. Hey, where's that girl? Why isn't she here? The green-faced scholar glanced around and did not find May's figure. Oh, don't you understand? Knife Scar said. Is it possible that the girl is dead? The green-faced scholar asked. Of course. Knife Scar nodded, daring to snatch food from the tiger's mouth in the hands of the immortal emperor. What's the difference from courting death? In that case, wouldn't the goblin race great emperor come in person? The green-faced scholar asked. It seems so. I hope the goblin race great emperor comes slowly. Otherwise, our forces will not even get the soup. Several people muttered to themselves, their faces full of bitterness. But in Sun Hao's residence, it was a completely different scene. P.S. Group 947782868. Many big shots in the group often send red packets. If you want to add, hurry up. Chapter 356. In the front yard of Sun Hao's residence, Venerable Green Lotus's robe fluttered as she walked out of the myriad divine lotus. Standing in front of the palace, she was like a fairy that had just emerged from the water. Her beauty was indescribable. Phew, the two cherry blossom trees transformed into two little lotus. They walked forward and grabbed Venerable Green Lotus's hands. Sister Qinglian, why did you let that little girl go? Those who dare to steal Master's things should die. Xiaofan said. Xiaofan, you have to be kind. Don't die so easily. Am I right, Sister Qinglian? Pan said. We are the Azura Saints. We have never seen such a saintly Azura like you. How embarrassing, Xiaofan said. This is what Master taught me. You have followed Master for so long, yet your killing intent has not changed. You are the one who is losing face. Xiao Fang said. All right. Supremacy Qing Lian shouted, and the two little Lolas immediately shut their mouths, no longer speaking. She cannot die, Venerable Green Lotus said. Ah. Little Fang was startled. Sister Blue Lotus, why? It's hard to explain, so it's better if you don't know. This is the cause and effect of everything. Everything has its own destiny. Venerable Green Lotus said. Where did you send her? Xiao Fang asked. I've given her to Master. I'm sure Master has a way to deal with her. At this point, Reverend Green Lotus swept his gaze over the entire mansion. Everyone, buzz, the tremors continued to ring out. Surging auras soared into the sky and flew to the front of Azure Lotus, bowing respectfully. Venerable Qinglian, what can I do for you? If there's anything you need, please tell us. We won't refuse. Looking at the thousands of figures, Venerable Green Lotus said seriously, Everyone, Master's training in the mortal world has ended. The Age of Darkness will begin again. We must make some preparations so that when Master reaches his peak, we can also gather our peak strength. Venerable Green Lotus said. Yes, Venerable Green Lotus. Everyone nodded in unison. Ah, Sister Qinglian, are you leaving? If we leave, who will bloom a fragrant flower for the Master to smell? Yes, Sister Qinglian. The eyes of the Azura saints were filled with reluctance. Let's leave behind an avatar, Venerable Green Lotus said. But clones don't have consciousness. They don't have spirituality. It's all right. Let's get down to business. We don't have much time left. Venerable Qinglian wore a solemn expression. Phew! Thousands of figures rushed into the sky and soon disappeared into the depths of the universe. At Sun Hao's residence, the cherry blossoms were still in full bloom, and the myriad god lotus continued to bloom with dazzling brilliance. For these, Sun Hao did not know. At this moment, he was holding the last cultivation technique book. With a wave of his brush, he wrote the modified incantation on the paper. Then, he placed it aside. Young Master, how is it? Zhongli Lang asked. Sigh. Sun Hao shook his head slightly and sighed secretly. He had read a few thousand cultivation techniques and learned quite a few abilities. However, he still did not have any celestial power or spiritual power in his body. From the looks of it, he was still immortal. However, in front of him, an immortal venerable was enough to deal with him with a single finger. As for the immortal emperors, they had never fought before, so it was impossible to judge. I didn't expect that I would have such terrifying strength just by obtaining a supreme physique. If I can obtain a cultivation method that matches my physique, wouldn't that be? The more he thought about it, the more excited Sun Hao became. Young Master, is there nothing you want? Zhongli Lang asked. Yes. Sun Hao nodded slightly. Great Dean, I have disturbed you for a long time. I will leave today. Young Master, how can you say that I have disturbed you? This is your home. Zhongli Lang said. Thank you, I have something to do, so I will leave first. Young Master, take care. Sun Hao soared into the sky with Huang Rumeng and flew into the immortal boat. Young Master, are we going back to the Great Demon Mountain? Huang Rumeng asked. Yes, let's go back and have a look first. By the way, I will ask Miss Xiaolan. With her hundreds of thousands of years of experience, she must know where there is a powerful cultivation technique. Sun Hao said, and this is a good idea. Huang Rumeng nodded. Let's go. Sun Hao's mind moved, set up the immortal boat, and rushed in the direction of the Great Demon Mountain. Not long after the immortal boat left the Supreme Court. Boom! Suddenly a sound rang out. The entire immortal boat was trembling slightly. What's going on? With doubts, Sun Hao and Huang Rumeng walked out of the immortal boat at the same time. Looking at the scene at the bow of the boat, their pupils shrank. They saw a woman in white was falling on the bow of the boat. At this moment, she was unconscious, falling on the bow of the boat, motionless. This woman was the Goblin clan, Xuemei. Looking at her figure, she should be a beauty. Rumeng used to fall from the sky. Why, now another beauty fell. Does this world like to fall beautiful women? Sun Hao thought secretly and stepped forward. After helping Xue Mei up, Sun Hao's face changed slightly. She saw that Xue Mei looked too similar to Huang Ruming. Except for the lack of elf ears and different hair color, other places looked the same. By the way, it seemed that this girl was a little more plump. At first glance, there was a kind of bloodline. She looked at Huang Ruming and then at Xue Mei, completely stunned in place. She looks very similar to Ruming, except for hair and ears. There seems to be no difference. Sun Hao muttered to himself, full of doubts. After reaching the venerable immortal level, one could change their appearance at will. However, Sun Hao could confirm that this girl did not change her original appearance. In this world, there were two people who were so similar. Twins? Impossible. If they were twins, this girl must also have elf ears and blonde hair. Then why did the two people look so similar? Why did she fall on his immortal boat? How did she faint? A series of questions emerged in Sun Hao's mind. For a while, there was no clue. Looking at Huang Ruming again, her surprised expression was no less than Sun Hao's. Ruming, do you know her? Sun Hao asked. I don't know. Huang Ruming shook her head slightly. Young master, can you see how she is? Yes. Sun Hao grabbed Xue Mei's right hand, and after exploring, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she just fainted. It's not a big deal. Then, he took out some medicine and fed it to Xue Mei. Ruming, please take this girl down to rest. Sun Hao said. Okay. Huang Ruming held Xue Mei and walked down. Sun Hao returned to the immortal boat, sat there, and thought secretly. In this world, strange things happen one after another. Some things were completely contrary to common sense. Just like those two cosmic giants, they were simply unimaginable existences. Who were they? Why did they appear there? Why could he see them? When would they fight to Xiang's star? Who could deal with them? A series of questions galloped in Sun Hao's mind. For a while, his shaking heart could not calm down. Since I have this kind of permanent buff, I can't waste it. I have to improve the strength of some people. It's best to find some reliable ones. When I return to the Great Demon Mountain, I will discuss it with President Luo. Chapter 357. Where am I? Xue Mei stood up and glanced around, her face full of doubts. Girl, are you awake? At this moment, Huang Ruming walked in. Seeing Huang Ruming, Xue Mei looked startled. Who is she? Why does she look so much like me? Wasn't I slapped away by an immortal emperor? Why am I here? A series of questions poured into her mind. Xue Mei didn't understand for a while. Girl, are you a little uncomfortable? Where are you from? Can you tell me? Huang Ruming asked. Tongue. Xue Mei stood up and looked at Huang Ruming with a vigilant face. She looked like a mortal, but her real strength was definitely not. Who are you? Why am I here? Why do you look so much like me? Xue Mei asked. Huang Ruming smiled slightly. My name is Huang Ruming. As for why you are here, I also want to ask you. Why did you fall on our immortal boat? As for our similarity, I want to know more. Huang Ruming said. This is on the immortal boat? Xue Mei's divine sense swept, revealing a look of realization. Us? There's still people on this immortal boat? Where is he? Just now, when she scanned with her divine sense, she did not find anyone. It seemed that the person's concealment method was far above her own. It was better to be careful of such a person. Ruming, is that girl awake? At this moment, Sun Hao's voice sounded outside the door. You're here? For this sudden sound, Xue Mei's eyes were full of fear. She gathered her strength, ready to attack at any time. It looked like a cheetah hiding in the night. Young master, she has woken up. The door opened. A man walked in. He was handsome, and his movements were very natural, making him look very comfortable. Xue Mei shook her head repeatedly. Immortal again? Unlike her, there is no sense of danger. Is he really immortal? Xue Mei stared at Sun Hao, using all kinds of secret methods. After dozens of confirmations, Xue Mei found that Sun Hao was indeed just immortal. Hello, girl. Sun Hao came forward. Don't come over. Xue Mei shouted softly, and two sharp blades suddenly appeared in her hands. An icy aura emanated from the sharp blades. Roar! Beside Sun Hao, the hair of ancient ripping sky's whole body stood up, and the aura of a ninth-grade immortal rushed out, enveloping Shui Mei all at once. Shui Mei's body trembled, and her whole body felt cold. The sharp blade in her hand began to tremble involuntarily. At this moment, it was as if she was facing off against an ancient beast. Shui Mei squinted her eyes and looked at the ancient sky-ripping technique. She felt as though she had sunk into hell, and despair enveloped her entire body. At this moment, she could not muster the slightest bit of resistance. Ancient spatial cracking. This was an ancient ferocious beast that was extremely savage. Cultivators who loved to eat would be chewed up and swallowed. Even their souls would not be spared. Why would such a terrifying beast appear here? He had just escaped from the heavens, only to fall into hell again. It's over. This was the last word Shui Mei could think of. She closed her eyes and quietly waited for death. However, after waiting for a long time, there was no response from the space-ripping ancient beast. When she opened her eyes, Shui Mei stood rooted to the ground. They saw. The mortal was stroking the void-breaker ancient beast head. The space-splitting ancient god was like a bootlicker, revealing a look of enjoyment. Heavens, what did I just see? The ancient ferocious beast turned out to be just a mortal's pet. If she didn't see it with her own eyes, who would dare to believe it? No, this person is by no means a mortal, probably an ancient devil. It must be extremely savage, eating people without spitting bones. I must get out of here as soon as possible. It's just that in front of such an ancient devil, can I escape? Shui Mei muttered to herself, and her eyes were full of the color of death. Little Gu, in the future, you must not be so fierce to guests. Understand? Sun Hao said. Oh. The space-ripping ancient beast nodded repeatedly, constantly rubbing his head on her trousers, with a dependent look. Girl, I'm sorry I scared you. Sun Hao said. Don't come over. Shui Mei held the door and kept retreating. Soon, she walked to the door. Oh. Without any hesitation, Shui Mei turned into an afterimage and rushed out quickly. When she came out of the immortal boat, she turned into an escape light and disappeared in the sky. Young master, don't you want to chase? Huang Ruming asked. No. Sun Hao shook his head slightly. Even if she stays, what about it? Young master, don't you have any questions to ask her? Huang Ruming said. Of course, I really want to ask her why she looks so much like you. However, she probably doesn't know the reason. Sun Hao said. Young master, why did she fall on the immortal boat? Don't you want to know? Huang Ruming asked. No. Sun Hao shook his head slightly. Just like when you fell in front of me. I don't want to know either. Fate gathers and scatters. Everything has its destiny. Grasping the beauty in front of you is the most important thing. Sun Hao held Huang Ruming's small hand with an affectionate face. Me too. Huang Ruming nodded heavily, her face full of a happy smile. The two hugged each other tightly at the bow of the boat, admiring the scenery of heaven and earth. Who? Suddenly a cold wind blew. A snowflake fell on the palm of his hand, bringing a trace of coldness. Looking up, he saw that the sky was already dark, and the flying snow was falling quickly. It's snowing, so beautiful. Huang Ruming stretched out her hands to touch these snowflakes, happy as child. Yeah, the weather is getting colder, so there's a taste of the year. Sun Hao said. Taste of the year. Huang Ruming's face was full of doubts. Obviously, she had never heard of this word. Sun Hao looked at the sky, and his eyes seemed to penetrate hundreds of millions of light years, returning to Earth. On a distant planet, there is an ancient legend. It is said that at the end of every year, there will be a kind of terrifying monster attacking humans. Sun Hao told the legend of the year beast. Huang Ruming was fascinated by it, and her eyes bloomed with a strange light from time to time. There is such a fun thing as the new year. Young master, so to speak, our Ziyang star is also going to celebrate the new year in 10 days. Let's celebrate the new year too, okay? Looking at Huang Ruming's eager eyes, Sun Hao nodded slightly. Okay. Young master, what do you need to prepare for the new year? What should I pay attention to? Huang Ruming asked. The customs of a new year are different from place to place, but the New Year's Eve dinner is a must. Also, pay Spring Festival couplets, buy New Year's goods, hang New Year's pictures, give out New Year's money. When Huang Rumming heard this, her eyes bloomed with a strange light. Young master, how about we go buy New Year's goods now? Huang Rumming said. Hearing this, Sun Hao nodded slightly. There are still 10 days before the new year. Isn't it just right to buy New Year's goods now? Okay, then let's go to Zhongfu Immortal City to buy New Year's goods now. Sun Hao said. Okay. P.S. Group 947782868. Looking forward to your joining. There are big guys constantly sending red envelopes, and there are very little sisters in it. What are you hesitating for? Chapter 358. That is. Sun Hao looked at the huge statue of Zhongfu Immortal City, standing in the sky, and couldn't help but frown slightly. No, shouldn't the godly cunning immortal be a dream? Why is a man? Sun Hao frowned and muttered to himself. Could it be that they made a mistake? The godly cunning immortal was obviously a dream. How did he become a man? Moreover, why does this man look so familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before? For a while, he just couldn't remember. Young master, do we need to put on makeup? Huang Ruming's voice woke Sun Hao up. Thinking of the last time he sold immortal wine, there was still a lingering feeling of fear at this moment. The cultivation girls in Zhongfu Immortal City were simply too fanatical. He had to be careful. Okay. Sun Hao nodded and followed Huang Rumong into the dressing room. Soon after, an old man walked out of the immortal boat with a girl wearing a veil on her face. It looked like a grandfather and grandson. Grandpa, what kind of New Year's goods are we going to pick? Huang Rumong asked. There's no hurry to pick up New Year's goods. Let's go to the tea house first. Sun Hao said. Okay, Grandpa. The two walked straight into a tea house. A pair of twos. I'll blow you up for threes. For eights, blow you up. The entire first floor was bustling with activity. Every three people sat at a table and started playing landlord. Behind each table, there was at least one person, and at most several people were watching. Looking at this scene, Sun Hao looked stunned, and his face was full of disbelief. This feeling was like returning to Earth. Was this still the cultivation world where people would kill if they didn't agree? How did it become so harmonious and friendly? Sun Hao stood behind a man, looking at the cards in his hand, and his eyes couldn't help but shine. 4 twos, a pair of kings. This was simply a heavenly card. It seemed that he had never caught such a good card. Damn, I caught such a bad hand again. The man muttered to himself with a look of disgust. Soon after, 4 twos with 2 kings. Hearing this, Sun Hao's expression stagnated. 1 sky bomb, 1 earth bomb. You just want to play? Sun Hao asked. The man was taken aback and quickly picked up the cards. How do I play? Split up. 4 twos is an earth bomb, second only to a sky bomb. The 2 kings are the biggest. Sun Hao said. These 2 are bombs. Of course. Thank you. I'll blow you up with 4 twos. As soon as these words came out, everyone's gazes landed on the man. That expression made it seem as if he wanted to eat him alive. The man's face was full of shame as he weakly picked up his chopsticks. Old man, even if you don't know, don't harm me. These 4 twos must carry 2 kings. Who said that? Who made the rules? Sun Hao felt a headache. Who would have thought that the rules would be messed up here? Sun Hao sat down, waved his right hand, and took out a deck of poker cards and placed it on the table. As soon as this thing appeared, it instantly attracted everyone's attention. Wow, what beautiful cards! Even spiritual telekinesis can't scan this poker card. Amazing, this is the real poker. Greedy gazes kept coming at him. Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth and pulled out a piece of paper from the poker. What was written inside were all kinds of poker games. There were Fight the Landlord, King's Side, Run Fast, Upgrade 5, 10K, so on and so forth. Each rule was introduced in great detail. Of course, these were all written by Sun Hao. Looking at these rules, everyone's eyes bloomed with a strange light. It turns out that the rules of Fight the Landlord are like this. Which bastard said that 4 twos must carry 2 kings? See if I don't beat you to death. Upgrade? It feels so interesting. In an instant, the whole tea house was hot. Old man, thank you for your guidance, we understand. No need. Sun Hao waved his hand slightly, and walked up to the second floor with Huang Rumeng. It's too late to say, but it happened quickly. At this critical moment, the godly cunning immortal used a shocking technique and cast a big net. In an instant, he caught the ancient divine beast Sangjiu. Saved all of us. A few children were standing in front of a storyteller, listening attentively to the storyteller. Sun Hao also walked forward and found a stool to sit down. What happened after that? A child asked. Later, of course, it was Fairy Mu Bing who divided the immortal dragon into countless pieces with great magic power and distributed it to everyone in the city. Little guy, haven't you eaten it? The storyteller touched the child's head and asked. Of course I have. That taste, it's so delicious, chewy, bouncy. It's the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. Yeah, I didn't expect dragon meat to be edible. Now that I think about it, I'm hungry again. I'm going back to eat. Several children turned around and left quickly. At this moment, only Sun Hao and Huang Rumeng were left in front of the storyteller. Sun Hao listened to these, and his eyes flickered with uncertainty. The dragon race could actually be used to eat. If there was a chance, he would also catch one to taste. At this point, Sun Hao's stomach couldn't help but ring, and the saliva in his mouth was secreted quickly. Withdrawing his mood, Sun Hao swept his gaze to the storyteller. With a move of his mind, he took out 10 immortal crystals and sent them to the storyteller. As soon as this thing came out, the storyteller's eyes bloomed with a strange light. He held the immortal crystals and looked at Sun Hao, his face full of disbelief. After seeing Sun Hao nod, he carefully put it away. Thank you, Senior. The storyteller clasped his fist. No need. Tell me what happened recently. Sun Hao said. Okay, Senior. The storyteller nodded. Senior, the major events in our Zhongfu Immortal City are really one after another. Among them, there's a major event that has a huge impact. Have you heard of the Heavenly Demon Continent, Senior? The storyteller asked. Sun Hao nodded. That was where the devil race lived. Could it be that the demon army was about to attack? Senior, I'll tell you a piece of good news. The demons on the Heavenly Demon Continent were all destroyed under the leadership of Leader Luo. Here's the thing. Until the storyteller finished, Sun Hao had not recovered from the shock. 500 people actually wiped out the entire Heavenly Demon Continent. It was too powerful. Also, what was the abyss? It sounded like it was not a good place. Find a chance to ask Miss Xiaolan. She must know. Besides this? Sun Hao asked. Senior, in addition to the destruction of the Heavenly Demon Continent, the second major event is naturally that young Master Sun Hao saved our entire Zhongfu Immortal City. The storyteller said. As soon as these words came out, Sun Hao's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. I saved Zhongfu Immortal City? When did that happen? How come I don't have any impression at all? I only seem to have sold immortal wine. Sun Hao thought for a long time, but he didn't understand. Senior, what's wrong with you? Did I say something wrong? The storyteller looked at Sun Hao with an uneasy expression on his face. Chapter 359. How do you know that young Master Sun Hao saved the entire Central Prefecture Immortal City? Sun Hao asked. Senior, the storyteller smiled slightly. Looks like you just arrived at the Central Prefecture Immortal City. Tell you, young Master Sun Hao is the godly cunning immortal. He calculated everything and controlled everything. Saved Jiangyang, suppressed the earth fiend. As for the storyteller's last words, Sun Hao did not hear a word. It was as if he had been struck by lightning, and it took him a long time to regain his senses. I am the godly cunning immortal? Why didn't I know? What did I ever do this? No wonder that statue looked so familiar. It turned out that the statue was him. Oh my God, am I really the godly cunning immortal? Moreover, a savior? At this moment, Sun Hao's heart was hit hard by the raging waves. For a while, he couldn't calm down at all. Leaving the tea house, Sun Hao took Huang Rumeng to the statue. When he stood in front of the statue, buzz! With a jolt, his entire mind buzzed. At this moment, Sun Hao could feel a trace of connection between himself and the statue. He could see his surroundings through the statue's eyes. Great godly cunning immortal, my most beloved young master Sun Hao, please bless me to give birth to a fat boy next year. Supreme young master Sun Hao, You are the most efficacious. Please bestow me a Tao companion. One by one, they knelt before him with pious looks on their faces. The entire square was densely packed with praying people. Hearing this, Sun Hao felt a headache. Some were looking for children, some were looking for a mate, some were looking for money. He thought of himself as an omnipotent god. If he had that kind of ability, why would he still be here? He didn't even start cultivating. What's that? Sun Hao looked at the top of each believer's head and couldn't help but look startled. They saw. Phew! A wisp of white light flew out from the top of each person's head and entered the glabella of the statue. Were these things? Following the light silk, Sun Hao's mind followed it all the way. Soon, in the mind of the statue, he found a white crystal stone the size of a fingernail. As the strands of light drilled into it, the white crystal slowly grew larger. What is this? Sun Hao's face was full of doubts. He stretched out his hand and touched it gently. Buzz, there was a tremor. The entire white crystal disappeared in an instant. Sun Hao's consciousness returned to his body, standing in place, motionless, although he did not feel that his strength had increased. But at this moment, he could clearly feel an indescribable feeling in his mind. He felt stronger, but at the same time, he didn't feel any change. All of this was too mysterious. No matter what, that piece of white crystal was helpful to him. Withdrawing his mood, Sun Hao looked to Huang Rumeng and said with a smile, "Rumeng, let's go and buy New Year's goods." "Yes, young master." Huang Rumeng nodded. A thick layer of snow had already fallen on the streets. The sky seemed to be pressing down, the cold wind mixed with the flying snow, whistling down, becoming thicker and thicker. Poochie, poochie. Footprints were left on the snowy ground. "Young master, what do you need to buy for the new year?" Huang Rumeng took Sun Hao's arm and asked. "There are many things to buy for the new year. Food, necessities, toys, like candies, rice cakes, fruits, dried fruits. However, there are a lot of things that we don't have. We can only make them ourselves." Huang Rumeng looked at Sun Hao, her eyes blooming with a strange light. "Young master really knows a lot. I can actually celebrate the new year with young master. This is wonderful." A sweet smile was written all over Huang Rumeng's face. Not long after, the two of them bought a bunch of New Year's goods and returned to the immortal boat. Huang Rumeng stood in front of Sun Hao, wanting to speak but hesitating. "Rumeng, what's wrong?" Sun Hao asked. "Young master, don't you have anything to ask me?" Huang Rumeng said. "Of course. Am I really the godly, cunning immortal?" Sun Hao asked. Huang Rumeng nodded. This, Sun Hao looked startled. Since Huang Rumeng said so, it must be true. When did I save Jianyang City? At that time, I was scared to death. Sun Hao said, "Young master, have you forgotten? You read the scriptures in the inn." Huang Rumeng said. When these words came out, Sun Hao showed an expression of sudden realization. Did he summon the Buddha by chanting sutras, suppress the evil spirits, and save the entire Jianyang City? At that time, when the blessing point was gathered to 100,000, he would not be able to see the scripture flying out. So that was how it was. What about saving Jade Lake Palace? This has nothing to do with me, right? Sun Hao asked. Huang Rumeng smiled slightly. "Young master, do you remember the painting you gave to Miss Luyan? And Miss Mu Bing's dragon statue?" As soon as these words came out, it immediately evoked Sun Hao's memory at that time. "Is it related to that painting and statue?" Sun Hao asked. "Yes." The pine tree in the painting flew out directly, incarnated into the world tree, and transformed Jade Lake Palace into a holy land. That dragon-shaped sculpture, there is the remnant soul of the space dragon ancestor in it, and the 4 generals captured it on the spot. Hearing Huang Rumeng's words, Sun Hao was shocked for a long time and did not come back to his senses. He didn't expect that the things he sent out would be so terrifying. What the system taught him was not simple. This was really terrifying. Sun Hao listened to Huang Rumeng's words, and he looked shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. The eels I ate turned out to be all dragons. The big bird I ate that day turned out to be a divine beast. Oh my God, everything I eat is so terrifying. Also, those cabbages in the eyes of others are all immortal divine medicines. This, Sun Hao took countless breaths of cold air before he calmed down. No wonder powerful people were all kneeling and licking when they saw him. So that's how it is. In this way, everything makes sense. However, don't be happy yet. There are mountains beyond mountains, and there are people beyond people. There's always a strong hand in the strong. He must test his strongest strength. Then, obtain the cultivation method and embark on the road of cultivation. Reaching the peak of the universe and blocking those cosmic giants, this is his goal. This is the soul-devouring insect. Can it devour souls? Sun Hao took out a few soul-devouring insects, put them in his palm, and began to look at them. But he saw them lying in his hand, shivering, and did not dare to move at all. Are they really so terrifying? Sun Hao asked. Yes, young master. Huang Rumeng nodded, and her eyes were full of fear. Once they are allowed to reproduce, it will be a disaster for the whole world. Master, no, don't listen to her nonsense. We are the most friendly insects in the world. At this time, several voices came into his mind. After Sun Hao heard it, he couldn't help but look stagnant. These insects actually recognized him as their master, who, with a wave of his right hand, all the soul-devouring insects flew out and circled around Sun Hao. When Huang Rumeng saw this scene, her pupils shrank and her face showed great shock. You all listen, in the future, don't devour other people's souls at will. Of course, except for the bad guys. Do you understand? Sun Hao said. Yes, master. All the soul-devouring insects shouted in unison. From today on, you will follow Rumeng and protect her. If she loses a hair, you don't need to exist in this world. Sun Hao's voice was cold. As soon as these words came out, a kind of power of law that was invisible to the naked, I enveloped these soul-devouring insects. Chapter 360. In the universe, in the Milky Way, on a certain planet with life, in a large hall, the corner of the Galactic Dragon King's mouth twitched as he looked at the messenger kneeling on the ground. Anger surged in his chest as though it was about to burst. Say that again. The Galactic Dragon King roared. Dragon King, the Crown Prince's soul lamp has shattered. The messenger lay on the ground, shivering. Also, the soul lamps of the second and third princes have shattered. As soon as these words came out, the Galactic Dragon King opened his mouth, but no words came out. He waved his right hand. Phew! A wave of immortal power instantly enveloped the messenger. No, don't, bang! The Milky Way Dragon King clenched his fist lightly, and the messenger's body exploded into a mist of blood. He died on the spot. He sat where he was, motionless. The corner of his mouth kept twitching. All three of his sons had died tragically. This enmity was irreconcilable. They're all dead? All of them died on planet Violet Sun? Who is it? If I don't skin you alive and peel off your bones, I won't be able to vent the hatred in my heart. You answer the purple sun star. I will crush you all to pieces. The Galactic Dragon King muttered to himself. After venting his anger gradually subsided. Guards! There was an angry roar. Dragon King. A guard knelt in front of the Galactic Dragon King. Go and invite Golden Vulture over. The Galactic Dragon King said. Dragon King, Lord Golden Vulture went out with the Crown Prince and hasn't returned yet. The guard said. As soon as these words came out, the Milky Way Dragon King's expression changed slightly. The divine beast, Song Jiao, actually didn't return? How is this possible? He was an immortal reverend, and his strength was not any weaker than his. If even he was dead, then wouldn't it be... Thinking of this, the Milky Way Dragon King gasped. Just now, he was too impulsive, and his anger completely burned away his rationality. A divine beast that can kill an immortal venerable must be at least a third-grade immortal venerable. Even with my strength, I will only be courting death. Fortunately, the sovereign sent 3 5th-stage celestial sovereigns to follow me. With them around, we can definitely break the promise and kill the murderer. Thus, the Milky Way Dragon King made his decision. Pass down my order. Gather 100,000 galactic guards and prepare for battle. The Galactic Dragon King said. The guard was stunned, and his face was full of disbelief. What? Do you need me to repeat myself? The Milky Way Dragon King looked displeased. Yes. The guards quickly retreated. The Milky Way Dragon King's face revealed a cold, murderous intent as he stared into the depths of the universe. Bring the dragon cannon there. I'm sure we'll succeed. Tianluo Continent, Sun Hao's residence. Luo Luyin and others stood in front of the Taiji Divine Tower and sighed again and again. This is a crystal absorber. Yeah, so many spiritual crystals have been absorbed by it, but there is no reaction at all. Su Yiling came forward and stood in front of Luo Luyin. Master, this primal chaos divine pagoda used up 2 million of our immortal crystals, but it didn't even activate a single array pattern. Su Yiling stood in front of Luo Luyin and said, Yes, I'm afraid that even 10 million immortal crystals are not enough. Luo Luyin said, Master, why don't we use the immortal crystals sent by Master Mo first? Su Yiling said, Shut up. Luo Luyin shouted softly, and Su Yiling's body trembled. She pouted and lowered her head. That was a gift from Master Mo to the young master. It's also the young master's thing. We're just keeping it for the time being. If the young master doesn't say anything, you can't touch it. Remember, don't say this kind of thing again in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning my back on you. Luo Luyin said. Oh, I know. Su Yiling said weakly, standing aside and not speaking again. Leader Luo, without immortal crystals to activate the Taiji Divine Pagoda, we can't temper our own strength. Why don't we go and cultivate for a while first? Flower Fairy said. Okay. Luo Luyin nodded and was about to leave with everyone. Buzz. The sky shook with layers of ripples, and an immortal boat appeared in the sky. The young master is back. The young master has been gone for more than a month. Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen the young master for a long time. Everyone's faces showed excitement, and they stood there neatly. When Sun Hao landed, they came forward together. Greetings, young master. Everyone saluted together. No need to be polite. Sun Hao looked at everyone with a puzzled face. Why don't you go in and cultivate? Luo Luyin smiled awkwardly. Young master, we don't have enough immortal crystals to activate the Taiji Divine Pagoda. By the way, young master, these are the immortal crystals sent by Master Mo. After speaking, Luo Luyin took out hundreds of bags and piled them on the ground like a hill. Master Mo? Sun Hao frowned slightly. Young master, it's Mo Haosher who wants to worship you as a disciple. He is an array master, Luo Luyin explained. Hearing this, Sun Hao showed a look of realization. That guy was a little thick-skinned, and his talent was a little poor, but his willpower was really not comparable to ordinary people. Presumably, after drinking his own enlightenment tea, his talent had also greatly improved. This is at least 30 million immortal crystals, right? Sun Hao's eyes widened, and his face was shocked. It had only been a few months, and that guy had earned 30 million immortal crystals? And all for himself? This was too filial. He had worked so hard to sell the immortal wine for so long, and now he only had a few million immortal crystals on him. Counting the immortal source, he only had a net worth of 10 million immortal crystals. Sun Hao looked at the 30 million immortal crystals, and for a while, his expression was extremely complicated. After a long time, Sun Hao recovered his expression and looked at Luo Luyin. Since you can't activate the Tai Chi Divine Tower, why don't you use these immortal crystals? Young master, this is your... Miss Luyin, this is your fault. The promotion of strength is the most important thing. What's a mere immortal crystal? In the future, I still need to rely on everyone. Sun Hao thought of the 2 cosmic giants, and he had a feeling of powerlessness. Only when everyone was strong could it be possible to resist. Boom! These words, like a thunderclap in Luo Luyin's mind, did not calm down for a long time. Sure enough, her hunch was correct. The young master said it directly now. It seemed that he had finished his cultivation as a mortal. Young master, you are right. I am wrong. Luo Luyin clasped her fist and saluted. Miss Luyin, don't be so restrained. Everyone is a friend, and it is right to help each other in the same boat. As soon as these words came out, everyone's heart was shocked. In his eyes, there was infinite brilliance blooming. The young master actually treats us as friends. It's so touching. All the enthusiastic gazes swept on Sun Hao. Sun Hao walked to the front of the Tai Chi Divine Tower, waved his right hand, and millions of immortal crystals flew rapidly, circling around the Tai Chi Divine Tower. Wisps of colorful light poured into the Tai Chi Divine Tower. After a few of its patterns lit up, it calmed down. Fuck, this is a crystal absorber. Sun Hao couldn't help but burst out a swear word. Chapter 361. 1,000,000 immortal crystals for the Tai Chi Divine Tower was like a clay ox entering the sea without any reaction. I don't believe it. Sun Hao waved his right hand, and 10,000,000 immortal crystals flew up quickly, circling around the Tai Chi Divine Tower. The endless colorful immortal light went straight into the Tai Chi Divine Tower. Buzz, one by one, the array patterns slowly lit up. After a group of array patterns lit up, the Tai Chi Divine Tower fell into silence again. Sun Hao stood in place and didn't speak for a long time. Isn't this too energy-consuming? A group of array patterns required 10,000,000 immortal crystals. There were at least tens of thousands of array patterns in the entire Tai Chi Divine Tower. The number of immortal crystals required to activate all of them was simply unimaginable. At this moment, Sun Hao had a feeling of powerlessness. Even if he threw the remaining 19,000,000 immortal crystals inside, he wouldn't be able to make a wave. Plus the immortal crystals on him, the result would not be any different. The divine weapon was really extraordinary. It seems that there is no way to activate it for the time being. Sun Hao sighed secretly, stepped on the snow on the ground, and walked into the house. Everyone, don't be stunned. Come in and sit down. I have something to discuss with everyone. Sun Hao shouted. Okay. Luo Luyin and the others followed Sun Hao and walked into the living room. Charcoal was lit, and a dozen people sat around. On the table, there were all kinds of fruits and dried fruits, and it looked like a family talking about daily life. Miss Luyin, in fact, there is an important thing for everyone to come here this time. I need you to find some reliable people, Sun Hao said solemnly. Reliable people? Luo Luyin muttered to herself, the expression on her face changing. For a while, she couldn't think of the specific meaning of Sun Hao's words. These people need to be 100% reliable to the human race. You can't regard the human race as ants. You can't be aloof. You can't bully your own race after you are strong. Listening to Sun Hao's words, Luo Luyin and the others nodded together. Finally, everyone's eyes were fixed on Luo Luyin. Young master, don't worry, leave these to us. Luo Luyin nodded heavily. This matter should not be delayed. It's best to find them in these few days. Can you do it? Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. Luo Luyin's face showed an anxious look, and she stood up straight. Young master, then we'll take our leave first. Master, we haven't eaten the fruit yet. Don't pull me. Su Yiling showed a look of eagerness. With a look from Sun Hao, Huang Rumming stepped forward, gave all the fruits on the table to Su Yiling, and packed them away for her. After everyone left, Sun Hao stood up and walked into the front yard. Looking at the sparse, flying snow in the sky, for a moment, there was a feeling of sadness and melancholy. It has been 20 years since he came to this world. Ever since he transmigrated, he had been living here. No parents, no relatives. If not for the system, he would have been swallowed by the demonic beasts long ago. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. The lotus seems to have lost some of its spirituality. Is it because winter is coming? Sun Hao looked at the myriad god lotus and couldn't help but frown slightly. Then he glanced at the 2 cherry blossom trees and took a deep breath. The cold air mixed with a faint scent entered his nostrils. The fragrance of the flowers was still there. However, the cherry blossom tree also lacked some spirituality. Leaving the front yard, Sun Hao walked into the carving room. Are there really powerful remnant souls in these things? Looking at the works, Sun Hao also frowned. Each statue seemed to have lost a little spirituality. Not to mention the remnant soul. He was afraid that there wasn't even a ghost shadow. Are they all gone? Sun Hao muttered to himself, thinking secretly. Forget it. Let's go to the backyard and see. Walking to the backyard, he looked up, just in time to see the soul-sinking divine wood covered with branches and leaves, covering one side of the world. The flying snow fell on it. All melted, turned into water mist, and steamed up. It looked like a fairyland, enchanting and enchanting. The soul-sinking divine wood can germinate in this winter? Really good. It seems that it's good to leave this place to Miss Xiaolan to take care of. Sun Hao looked at this scene and nodded secretly. Walking forward, Zhang Xin felt a warm aura. It made people feel like sitting in front of an oven, a little reluctant to leave. Sun Hao looked at the flowers all over the place, and his eyes flickered. Young master, it's dinner time. At this time, Huang Ruming's voice came. Hearing this, Sun Hao nodded and walked to the dining room. At the foot of the mountain, in an attic secret room on the west side, Luo Luyin and the others sat together, their faces full of solemn expressions. Leader Luo, what is the specific meaning of the young master's instructions this time? The flower fairy asked. In fact, it's the same as what you and I sensed. Speaking of this, Luo Luyin showed the most cautious eyes ever. I suspect that the dark era will start again. As soon as these words came out, everyone's body trembled. The color of panic was written all over their faces. 1,000,000 years ago, the world fell into darkness. The time lasted for tens of thousands of years. During that time, even the gods were like ants, and it was extremely difficult to survive. Tens of thousands of years were called the Dark Era. These people were weak, not even the immortal king. Wanting to survive in the Dark Era was tantamount to a fool's talk. If this was the case, what did this have to do with the person the young master said he was looking for? Everyone can see it, right? Luo Luyin asked. Yeah. Everyone had a puzzled look on their faces. Don't you see that the young master has finished his cultivation as a mortal? Luo Luyin said. As soon as these words came out, everyone showed a look of sudden realization. Now that the young master wants us to look for someone, what does it mean exactly? Mu Bing asked. Because the young master doesn't want to get involved in karma. I think the young master wants to fight against the behind-the-scenes manipulator of the Dark Era. He is looking for us because he doesn't want to be discovered by the behind-the-scenes manipulator, Luo Luyin said solemnly. The behind-the-scenes manipulator of the Dark Era? Everyone took a breath of cold air again. The Dark Era actually had a manipulator behind the scenes. Wasn't this too terrible? How could the means and strength of such a character be ordinary? Who could be his opponent? How can we fight against such a character? Of course not. So, the young master is looking for us to complete some simple tasks. Even so, it is not easy, and it is likely to be life-threatening. Everyone who is not afraid of death and is willing to be a chess piece in the young master's hands, raise your hand. I count in. After speaking, Luo Luyin took the lead in raising her hand. Me. One by one, unwilling to lag behind, raised their hands one after another. Even Su Yiling did not hesitate and raised her hand high. Good. The young master really did not see it wrong. Here, I thank everyone on behalf of the young master. Our team from now on. P.S. Group 9477828868. Looking forward to your joining. Chapter 362. Everyone, remember, the people you are looking for must be loyal and reliable first. Then, tell them that they will die in this mission. If they are willing to join, we can take them in. Luo Luyin looked at the crowd and said, Leader Luo, how many people are we looking for? It's impossible to collect as many as we can, right? Xin Yuan sure asked. This, Luo Luyin's expression stagnated. How many was there? For a while, she couldn't figure out at all. Luo Luyin secretly thought about Sun Hao's every movement and expression. She started the crazy association mode. After thinking for a long time, she still had no clue. Soon after, Leader Luo, outside the door there was a cry. Elder Zhongli? Luo Luyin looked stunned and opened the door of the secret room. But she saw Zhongli Lang running in quickly. Leader Luo, this old man's understanding is low. I really can't understand. Entering the secret room, Zhongli Lang waved his right hand, and dozens of cultivation methods were placed on the table. This is... Luo Luyan didn't understand. Leader Luo, you will know when you open it, Zhongli Lang said. With puzzled expressions, everyone picked up the cultivation methods in turn and began to check them. When they turned to the last page, the whole person was stunned in place and didn't move for a long time. After returning to their senses, the sound of gasping came one after another. These cultivation methods were all supreme, immortal-level cultivation methods. There was no problem in cultivating to become a supreme, immortal emperor. Then, they picked up the next cultivation method and were stunned again. Are these all changed by the young master? Luo Luyan asked. Not bad. Zhongli Lang told them about Sun Hao's modification of the cultivation method in the Supreme Court. When everyone heard this, they were shocked. The incomparably complex cultivation method chants, under the young master's pen, directly turned into a few words. These words seemed to have shocking power that could make people sink into it and directly observe. Even immortal emperors couldn't do this kind of method. I understand, Luo Luyan said. Leader Luo, what do you understand? Quick, tell us. Looking at everyone's eager look, Luo Luyan smiled slightly. Don't worry. She stared directly at Zhongli Lang. How many cultivation methods are there in total? The young master has changed. A total of 4,832, Zhongli Lang said. In that case, the number of people that young master needs us to find is 4,832. These cultivation methods were given to us by the young master. Elder Zhongli, take out all the cultivation techniques. Everyone can choose a suitable one. By the way, Elder Zhongli, would you like to join our death squad? Luo Luyan asked. A suicide squad? Zhongli Lang's face was filled with bewilderment. It's a team that we've just formed. We become young master's pawns. Wherever young master points, we'll kill. The team's name is the Death Squad. Joining this team requires courage that is not afraid of death. After Luo Luyan's explanation, Zhongli Lang did not hesitate and nodded again and again. I'll join. Then he took out all of his cultivation techniques and filled the entire secret room. So that's what young master meant. If I didn't look for Alliance Master Luo, how would I understand? Alliance Master Luo is really amazing. His comprehension is really unprecedented. Zhongli Lang looked at Luo Luyan with eyes full of worship. Wow, devouring heaven and earth? Isn't this a cultivation technique tailor-made for me? Young master, you are so kind to me. Su Yiling picked up a copy of Devouring Heaven and Earth Secret Art. Her eyes bloomed with a strange light, and she held it in her hand like a treasure. Hourglass of Time? Young master, did you prepare this for me? Zhongli Lang took a copy of Hourglass of Time from the pile of books and couldn't calm down for a long time. He secretly took out an ancient bronze fragment, and his eyes kept flashing. It was this fragment that allowed him to embark on the path of time. However, this fragment was many times worse than Hourglass of Time. Everyone found a suitable cultivation technique in the pile of books. The light of excitement lingered for a long time. At the same time, in the depths of the universe, in an endless sea of thunder, ZZ, strands of lightning of different colors were galloping inside. Each strand was as thick as a mountain range. The kind of power that destroyed, everything kept shuttling. When the two collided, dazzling sparks burst out, making people unable to look directly. Countless electric lights kept bursting. If it weren't for this vacuum, the sound produced would be enough to break everything. In the center of the sea of thunder, there was a main hall flashing with lightning. The size of the main hall was comparable to that of a planet. In the hall, a thunder and lightning giant was sitting on a high platform. He had 4 heads and 8 arms, and each hand was holding a weapon of different shapes. ZZ, the terrifying lightning kept lingering on the 8 weapons, bursting out a heart-wrenching sound. This giant was the famous Thunder Tribulation Lord. Greetings, Lord. All around, there were Thunder Tribulation giants with a height of 1,000 meters. They knelt on the ground together and kowtowed in salute. The Thunder Tribulation Lord said faintly, rise. A group of thunder tribulation giants stood up one after another and lowered their heads. Whoosh! The thunder tribulation lord's eyes burst out two rays of lightning and stared directly at a thunder tribulation giant. This stare immediately made the thunder tribulation giant tremble and kneel on the ground. Lei Yang! A roar resounded throughout the hall. Lord! Lord! The voice of the thunder tribulation giant, named Lei Yang, trembled. How do you explain Purple Sunstar? Millions of immortals and dozens of immortal kings. There are countless ascendant realms. Your performance is zero. Tell me, what did you do? The thunder tribulation lord's voice was not loud, but it carried infinite majesty. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of all the thunder tribulation giants changed dramatically. What? Millions of immortals? Lei Yang's performance is still zero. Trash is really trash. If it were me, I would definitely be the first in performance this year. It's really a disgrace to us thunder tribulation giants. Such voices kept ringing. Lei Yang lowered his head and didn't say a word. His face was full of bitterness. Lei Yang, do you have anything to say? The thunder tribulation lord looked at Lei Yang and said, Lord, I have difficulties. Lei Yang said loudly, Difficulties? What difficulties? The thunder tribulation lord said, Lord, it's not that I don't want to. It's that there is no other way, because there is a supreme existence living on Purple Sunstar, and his strength is unimaginable. Lei Yang said, How unimaginable? The thunder tribulation lord said, Lord, he can improve people's strength by playing a piece of music. The dishes he usually eats are all immortal divine medicines. The tea he drinks is enlightenment tea and supreme immortal tea. Every time he makes tea, he uses dozens of enlightenment tea leaves to make tea. Lei Yang said one sentence at a time. As soon as these words came out, there was dead silence all around. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Lei Yang. The look on their faces was different. When Lei Yang finished, the laughter resounded throughout the hall. Chapter 363. I'm going to laugh myself to death. The dishes we usually eat are all immortal godly medicines? They're all drinking enlightenment tea? You might as well call him a god. That's right. You're just bragging. You're useless, yet you're blaming others. He doesn't even know how to find an excuse. I think Lei Yang is finished. Many of the giants had mocking expressions on their faces. No one believed Lei Yang's words. The thunder tribulation sovereign's face was full of majesty. Silence. After the sound, the whole place instantly quietened down. Lei Yang, is what you said true? Lightning tribulation ruler said. Sovereign, it's absolutely true. Lei Yang nodded. What is his name? The lightning tribulation ruler asked. Ruler, I remember his name is Sun Hao. Lei Yang said. Sun Hao. The thunder tribulation lord frowned slightly and searched through the memories in his mind. In his memory, there was no such person at all. Could it be that he was thinking too much? If that wasn't the case, how could there be so many immortals and even dozens of immortal kings on a wasted planet? Let me do some calculations first. With this thought in mind, the thunder tribulation sovereign pinched his fingers and calculated. The 8 hands moved at the same time. Sizzle. Lightning coiled around his fingertips, bursting forth with a soul-stirring power. After a while, the thunder tribulation ruler stopped, and each of his heads showed a solemn expression. I can't figure it out at all. Is there no character like Sun Hao? Looks like I was thinking too much. How could a way star like the Violet Sun Star have such a powerhouse? In order to avoid punishment, this kid actually told such a lie. How preposterous! A hint of anger flashed across the thunder tribulation ruler's face. He looked at Lei Yang and said, Lei Yang, where's the immortal tribulation thunderhammer? Sovereign, over here. After saying that, Lei Yang took out the immortal tribulation thunderhammer. As soon as this thing appeared, it shocked many people. What? The immortal tribulation lightning hammer only has a few wisps of heavenly Tao light left? What is Lei Yang doing with the immortal tribulation lightning hammer? The corners of the thunder tribulation sovereign's mouth twitched as he looked at the immortal tribulation thunderhammer in Lei Yang's hand. Thunder Son, Have you offended him? The tribulation sovereign roared. Sovereign, I don't know. Lei Yang's face was filled with confusion. Don't know? Thunder Tribulation Lord's face was full of majesty as he coldly looked at Lei Yang. If the performance is 0, I won't pursue it. However, your lies and fabrications are unforgivable. Tell me, are you guilty or not? Thunder Tribulation Lord's voice was cold. Jimin, I didn't. This is one of the reasons. The Thunder Tribulation Dominator didn't give Lei Yang a chance to speak. Secondly, you didn't take good care of the immortal tribulation Thunderhammer. How could you make it look like this? If the higher-ups blame me, even I won't be able to bear the consequences. Since it's your first offense, I can spare you from the death penalty, but I won't let you off. Guards, take him away and lock him in the Thunder Prison. As soon as these words came out, Lei Yang's expression changed dramatically. No, Sovereign, spare me. Spare me. Lei Yang knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. The Thunder Tribulation ruler was unmoved. Take him away. A few giants clad in thunder armor rushed over and lifted Lei Yang up as if he were a chicken. No, don't. Sovereign, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Jimin, you will definitely regret this. Lei Yang's voice echoed in the hall for a long time. Regret? The Thunder Tribulation ruler smiled coldly and didn't take it to heart. Then he swept his eyes on another Thunder Tribulation giant. The Thunder Tribulation ruler shouted, Lei Lang, Sovereign, what can I do for you? Lei Lang stood up, and his whole body burst out with blood-red lightning. A violent and bloodthirsty aura rushed out of him. He knelt in front of the Thunder Tribulation ruler with a respectful face. You won the first place in performance this time. Pretty good. As a reward, this Thunder God Sword is awarded to you. After speaking, the Thunder Tribulation ruler threw a long sword shining with lightning in his hand to Lei Lang. As soon as this thing came out, it instantly attracted the attention of all the Thunder Tribulation giants. Greedy eyes were written all over everyone's face. This is a supreme immortal weapon, and the Sovereign said to give it away. It's really amazing. As expected of the first place in performance, I want it too. Wave after wave of worship swept across Lei Lang's body. The corners of Lei Lang's mouth rose, holding the Thunder God sword in his hand. His eyes were shining with a strange light. It took him a long time to calm down. Thank you, Sovereign. Lei Lang knelt down and kowtowed. No need for formalities. The Thunder Tribulation ruler looked at Lei Lang. Since you're the first in performance, then for the next 10 years, you'll go to Purple Sun Star. Are you willing? Purple Sun Star? That way, Star? Since so many immortals have been born on it, presumably it will continue to be born. Then, it should be no problem to become first this time. After some thinking, Lei Lang made a decision. Sovereign, I am willing. Lei Lang nodded. Okay, there's no time to lose. You go immediately. After speaking, the Thunder Tribulation ruler waved his right hand. An array of lightning flew out of his fingertips and exploded in front of Lei Lang. ZZ. A teleportation vortex flashing with lightning appeared in front of Lei Lang. This will send you to the Milky Way galaxy, where you go to take the teleportation array to Purple Sun Star. The Thunder Tribulation ruler said, Yes, Sovereign. Lei Lang cupped his fist and saluted. Without any hesitation, he walked into the teleportation vortex. Buzz, all around, calm was restored. Everyone's eyes swept directly on the Thunder Tribulation ruler. The second place in performance this year is Lei Lu. The Thunder Tribulation ruler stared directly at a Thunder Tribulation female giant. Swish, a pair of eyes swept over, all staring at the female giant. The light of envy, worship, and love kept sweeping over and could not stop at all. Lei Lu flung her hair flashing with lightning and proudly walked forward. Father, I was supposed to get first place. It's all because you are biased. Lei Lu looked dissatisfied. Call me Sovereign. The Thunder Tribulation ruler's face was full of majesty. However, it was useless. Lei Lu was not afraid. I just want to call you Father, Father, Father. Okay. The Thunder Tribulation ruler waved his hand again and again. Say, what reward do you want? Reward? Lei Lu's eyes were full of light. Father, I want Thunder God's hammer, Thunder God's armor. Only one. The Thunder Tribulation ruler said. I want two. Give or not. In Lei Lu's eyes, the threat was very strong. The Thunder Tribulation ruler sat in place, speechless for a while. The monstrous majesty in front of his daughter was not left at all. The problem was that there was no way. AI. Okay, I'll give it all to you. After speaking, the Thunder Tribulation ruler waved his right hand and gave these two things to Lei Lu. You step back, the Thunder Tribulation ruler said. I won't step back. Lei Lu put away the two things and stood in place, without any intention of stepping back. Okay, it's up to you. The Thunder Tribulation ruler sighed and swept his eyes on another Thunder Tribulation giant. Lei Ji, you took second place this time. Do you have anything to say? Plop. A sound of kneeling on the ground sounded. Sovereign, I killed an Ascendant Realm person. Chapter 364. Heaven Luo Continent, Great Demon Mountain Range. Phew. A figure dashed through the forest, sometimes darting here, sometimes darting there. This person was Xuan Mei. She looked in the direction of Sun Hao's residence, looking at the 100-meter-tall Tai Chi Divine Pagoda, her face solemn. It's already been 2 days. Why hasn't the person sent by Mother arrived yet? If that immortal emperor took away the Taiji Divine Pagoda, wouldn't that be? The more she thought about it, the more anxious she became. I went to steal the Divine Tower of Taiji. Why didn't the Celestial Emperor kill me? This doesn't make any sense. Could it be that the immortal emperor is heavily injured and can't kill me? She used that attack just to make an example out of me? After using that move, is she already at her limit? It must be so. The more she thought about it, the more excited Xue Mei became. His eyes shone with a strange light. He was unable to calm down for a long time. I'll go check it out. Thinking like this, Xue Mei turned into an afterimage and rushed to Sun Hao's residence. Outside the courtyard, he hid behind a tree and poked his head out. He waited for a while, but there was no response. There wasn't even the slightest fluctuation. Gone? She can't bring the Taiji Divine Tower away, Xue Mei thought to herself as she carefully walked towards the courtyard. He placed his ear on the courtyard door and used a secret technique to detect the sounds inside. Silence. Nothing could be heard. No one. There's no aura. Xue Mei's eyes shone with a strange light. In the next second, her expression changed drastically. Creak! A sound rang out. Xue Mei was about to fly away. The courtyard gate was already open. Their eyes met. Looking at the man in front of her, Xue Mei instinctively felt fear. Ancient demon? Xue Mei took a step forward and slowly retreated. Her eyes were filled with fear. Miss, is that you? Do you want to come in? Xue Mei was startled when she heard these two voices. He's asking me to sit inside? Could this be his residence? What about that immortal emperor? Where did he go? He doesn't seem to be here. Should I go in or not? Would it be like a sheep entering a tiger's den, never to return? However, if he could not obtain the Taiji Divine Pagoda, he would die without a doubt. Fight! After obtaining the Taiji Divine Pagoda, he immediately ran. After some thought, Xue Mei made a decision. This is your home? Xue Mei asked. Not bad. Do you want to come in and sit down? Sun Hao said. All right. Xue Mei walked forward with a guarded expression. He held two talismans tightly in his hands, ready to ignite them at any time. Please come in. Sun Hao made a gesture of invitation. You walk in front. Xue Mei retreated 2 steps, her face guarded. All right. Sun Hao smiled slightly and walked straight ahead. Xue Mei followed closely behind and looked around. He released his spiritual will to scan the surroundings. As long as there was any danger, he would flee immediately. Phew! Suddenly, 2 pairs of eyes swept over. Xue Mei's body trembled. She looked up, and her pupils shrank. Space cracking ancient. It's him again. What should we do? Xue Mei looked at the Taiji Divine Tower, not far away, her expression changing. Out of the 2 talismans in his hands, one could defend him against a full-powered attack from a grade 9 Immortal Venerable. The other one was the escape card, which could allow one to instantly escape 1,000,000 miles away. Even experts who cultivated the space Great Tao wouldn't be able to easily find the spatial trajectories. Holding these 2 talismans, Xue Mei was full of confidence. She glanced at the Taiji divine pagoda out of the corner of her eye, and her heart began to beat violently, closer and closer. He could immediately store it in his soul space. Something's wrong. Shuemei looked at the Taiji divine pagoda, her face filled with disbelief and shock. The runes on the Taiji divine pagoda had all been refurbished. Every single formation pattern was engraved extremely perfectly, as though it was made by nature. There was not a single flaw that could be picked out. In this world, there is actually such a formation master? That was impossible, right? I can't even see the grade. This is no longer a low-grade divine artifact. At this moment, Shuemei felt as if her chest had been struck by a heavy blow, and she was unable to calm down for a long time. If we can obtain such a divine artifact, we will definitely be able to solve the crisis of our race. He would soon be able to obtain the divine artifact. It was getting closer and closer. Finally, he stood in front of the Taiji divine tower. Without any hesitation, Shuemei took out her secret technique and touched the Taiji divine pagoda. Just as he was about to put it into his soul space, however, in the next second, her expression froze as she stared blankly at this scene, full of disbelief. The Taiji divine tower was actually unmoved. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't take the Taiji divine tower away. Why? You're from my race. Shuemei used her divine sense to transmit her voice and released it on the Taiji divine tower. When my body collapsed, where were you waiting? If it weren't for Master's amazing magic power to reassemble my soul, I'm afraid I would have died long ago. Your goblin clan actually has the face to say this to me? A few words went straight into the soul sea. Shuemei's face turned pale, and her whole body trembled. Miss, what's wrong? At this moment, Sun Hao's voice came, and Shuemei instantly regained consciousness. She looked at Sun Hao with a trace of fear on her face. No, nothing. Do you want to enter the Taiji divine tower to cultivate? Sun Hao said. Shuemei was shocked. Of course, she wanted to run in and cultivate right now. However, how could she be qualified to enter such a divine artifact? Shuemei nodded. Miss, then you came a bad time. Now that the energy is used up, it can't be activated. Miss, since you're here, please come this way. Sun Hao walked towards the main hall. Shuemei stood in place, and the expression on her face changed. She looked up at the main hall with a thoughtful expression. For a moment, she hesitated. By the way, miss, what's your name? Sun Hao asked. My name is... Shuemei frowned and began to think. He was an ancient devil. Would it be dangerous to tell him her name? Would there be any dangerous place waiting for her in the main hall? However, how could she get a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? She had to go in and check it out and get useful information. Then, find a way to get the Taiji divine tower. This was her purpose. Anyway, it was not a problem to save her life. Shuemei clenched the talisman in her hand tightly, showing a confident face, and quickly followed. My name is Shuemei, Shuemei said. Shuemei. Sun Hao murmured and nodded secretly. The name is quite good. By the way, Miss Shuemei, what's the matter for coming here today? Sun Hao asked. What's the matter? Naturally, I can't tell you. What excuse should I find? For a while, Shuemei couldn't find a reasonable excuse. I can't lie at all. Miss Shuemei, if you're embarrassed, you cannot say it. Please, since you're here, you're a guest. Have dinner before you leave. Creak, a sound rang out. Sun Hao opened the living room door. A breath came to her face. Everything in the living room was reflected in Shuemei's eyes. Shuemei suddenly froze in place. She looked at everything inside and murmured for a long time without recovering. Chapter 365. Shuemei raised her eyebrows and looked at the plate of cherries on the table, stunned. That's the best, no, the supreme immortal fruit. There's such a big plate. Those dried fruits are also of supreme immortal fruit quality. This must be the evil plan of the ancient devil, trying to tempt me? Despite thinking so, Shuemei's stomach was like thunder, and a sense of hunger surged all over her body, swallowing saliva from time to time. Don't look, don't think about it. How can I fall? Absolutely not. Shuemei muttered to herself and followed Sun Hao into the living room. Miss Shuemei, don't be polite, please sit down. Eat some fruit first. Sun Hao took the fruit to Shui Mei. The black cherry with red color strongly stimulated Shui Mei's nerves. The appetite that had just been suppressed surged again. Miss Shui Mei, don't be polite. Sun Hao picked up a cherry, put it in his mouth, and took a bite. The juice exploded, sour with a hint of sweetness. The sweetness was mixed with the fragrance of the pulp, and it assaulted Shui Mei's nose. Gulp! Shui Mei could not stop swallowing her saliva, her eyes filled with anticipation. That plate of cherries, like a living creature, strongly stimulated her nerves, as if saying, "Come and eat me. No, you must not touch it. There must be poison in it. He has eaten it. How can it not be poisonous? He is an ancient devil, and his physique is different. Maybe only the fruit in his hand is not poisonous, so you must not touch it. If you can eat a mouthful of supreme immortal fruit, you will be poisoned to death." Two voices kept ringing in Shui Mei's mind. For a while, she couldn't make a choice. "Miss Shui Mei, is it not to your liking? Why don't we have tea?" After speaking, Sun Hao picked up a fruit and put it aside. At this moment, Shui Mei's face was full of regret. "Why don't you eat one? That's a supreme, immortal fruit." Shui Mei looked at Sun Hao's back and muttered to herself, "Miss Shui Mei, come and taste my dahongpo." Sun Hao stepped forward. In his hand, there was a tea box. He opened it and looked. Shui Mei suddenly showed a dumbfounded look. "Enlightenment tea? That's enlightenment tea. There are at least hundreds of pieces. The ancient demon wants to soak a piece for me? No way. How could he bear to part with such a precious treasure?" Shui Mei was so excited that her body trembled slightly. The two lumps in front of her chest were trembling incessantly. That kind of charm was enough to make one's heart surge. "What? He has so many of them. There must be at least dozens of them." Shui Mei felt as if she had suffered a heavy blow. She was unable to calm down for a moment. Not long after, a cup of dahong pao was placed in front of Shui Mei. "Miss Shui Mei, don't stand on ceremony. Drink up." Sun Hao clearly captured Shui Mei's surprised look. Seeing that Shui Mei didn't take it, Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth and took the cup back. "It seems that Miss Shui Mei doesn't like tea either. In that case, forget it." After speaking, Sun Hao made a gesture to pour the tea away. However, a pair of soft and boneless little hands held Sun Hao's at once. As soon as their hands touched, they quickly let go. "Thank you, I still like drinking tea," Shui Mei said. "Lady Shui Mei, please." Sun Hao glanced at the talisman in Shui Mei's hand and nodded secretly. This girl was very wary of him. However, would he be able to escape with just those two talismans? "Thank you very much." Shui Mei took the teacup and took a sip. Suddenly, her body was like an electric shock, and she was extremely excited. "It's just a sip of tea, and my soul is strengthened several times. It's worthy of enlightenment tea. This ancient devil is worthy of being an old monster, and his collection is too rich. He didn't poison me? It's so strange." Shui Mei looked at Sun Hao, her eyes full of curiosity. She saw that Sun Hao was drinking tea by himself and didn't look at Shui Mei at all. When Shui Mei finished drinking, Sun Hao got up and poured her another cup. "Thank you very much." Shui Mei cupped her fists and saluted. She glanced at Sun Hao. Watching his every movement, she couldn't help but be absent-minded. Every movement of his is natural and has its own charm. No matter how I look at it, he doesn't look like a devil. Could it be that I guessed wrong? Shui Mei murmured and continued to drink enlightenment tea. A moment later, Shui Mei touched her round belly with a satisfied look. She didn't stop until she finished drinking the whole pot of tea. For a while, she couldn't digest it all. "Miss Shui Mei, can you draw talismans?" Sun Hao looked at the talisman in Shui Mei's hand and asked. Shui Mei looked startled and quickly hid the talisman. Miss Shui Mei, you really don't have to be so reserved. Actually, I can also draw talismans. If you can, I want to communicate with you." Sun Hao said. "You could draw talismans?" Shui Mei's eyes lit up. Many races could draw talismans, but there was really no one who could compare with the Goblin clan. It took her nearly 100 years to collect these two talismans. It took a few months and hundreds of talismans to succeed. "I know a little. If you're willing, please give me 1 or 2 pointers. Sun Hao said. Shui Mei lowered her head, revealing a thoughtful look. Her vigilance was not lifted. After all, I drank his enlightenment tea and gave him some pointers to draw talismans. Mother won't blame me, right? It's fine if I don't tell the secret. Presumably, Mother won't say anything. Thinking like this, Shui Mei nodded secretly. Okay. Thank you, Miss Shui Mei. Shall we start now? Sun Hao asked. Huh? Now? Don't you need to fast for 49 days before drawing talismans? No touching, no eating, drinking, no touching water. There were a total of 108 rules. Also, she needed to prepare the talisman altar and pray to heaven for 49 days. In this way, the success rate would be high. Otherwise, it would be impossible to succeed at all. In the moment when Shui Mei was stunned, Sun Hao had already filled the table with things. Then, he began to grind the ink. This kind of ink, made of cinnabar, was essential for drawing talismans. He dipped it in cinnabar and waved the brush. A series of ancient runes appeared on the talisman paper. In less than half a breath, a space escape talisman appeared in front of Shui Mei. Looking at this escape talisman, Shui Mei opened her mouth wide and murmured for a long time without saying a word. She saw that above the escape talisman, hundreds of runes appeared on it. Each rune was drawn in one stroke, and it was so smooth that there was no fault to be found. In the eyes of people, there was a pleasing feeling. Above the runes, the 7-color divine essence loomed and flowed on the talisman paper. The power of the heavens was contained in it. What is this? 7 colors? Could this be the legendary divine essence? Thinking of this, Shui Mei took a few breaths of cold air. Her whole person was like being electrocuted, and she couldn't calm down for a long time. Unexpectedly, this ancient devil could draw divine talismans. My ancestor. If she didn't see it with her own eyes, who would dare to believe it? She just said that she would give him pointers. Where's his face? Such a character. Even if the demon clan's ancestor came, he couldn't compare. Thinking of this, Shui Mei's face couldn't help but turn red. Her face was like a peach, making her cold expression look a lot better. Chapter 366. Miss Shui Mei, why don't you come over and take a look? Sun Hao's voice awakened Shui Mei. She looked at the escape talisman in Sun Hao's hand and murmured for a long time without saying a word. Perfect. Shui Mei felt powerless as she uttered these 2 words. At this moment, her heart was violently shaken. The art of drawing talismans, which he had always been proud of, was heavily hammered. The ancient demon's talisman drawing technique was truly heaven-defying and unimaginable. If he could learn it, wouldn't it be? The more she thought about it, the more excited Shui Mei became. For a moment, she could not calm down. No, I'm here to obtain the Taiji Divine Pagoda. Everything else is not worth mentioning. Shui Mei heaved a sigh of relief and calmed down. You flatter me, Miss Shui Mei. If you like it, this talisman will be given to you. Sun Hao said. What? Shui Mei stood rooted to the ground, unable to believe that all of this was real. The value of a divine-level talisman was simply unimaginable. Even if someone like the Thunder Tribulation Dominator saw such a talisman, he would seize it at all costs. Such a peerless talisman, he must have consumed a lot of energy. Giving it to her just like that? Thank you. Shui Mei held the talisman in her hand, as if she had obtained a precious treasure. Seeing this scene, a smile flashed on Sun Hao's face. After accepting the gift, the door to his heart opened. She probably wouldn't be so guarded anymore. When the time was right, he could ask her some questions. Sun Hao could confirm that she looked the same as Ru Ming, and it was by no means a coincidence. There must be thousands of connections between them. He couldn't find a reason, but he always had an uneasy premonition. Miss Shui Mei, the food should be ready. Let's go eat. Sun Hao's words just fell. Young master, Lady Shui Mei, dinner is ready. At this time, Huang Ruming's voice came. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. After a day of interaction, Shui Mei was surprised to find that this ancient demon did not have any violent aura. On the contrary, he was quite friendly and easy to get along with. Every time she looked at Sun Hao, There was always a trace of apology in Mei's eyes. Am I wrong? He's not an ancient demon. Then how did he manage to subdue the sky-cracking ancient beast? That's an ancient, fierce beast. Thinking of this, Mei looked at the sky-ripping ancient god with a hint of fear in her eyes. Little girl, why do you always look at me like that? Do I have the word vicious written on my head? Two booming sounds shook Mei's mind. Could it be wrong? Mei was surprised. Of course not. Although I am an ancient beast, I am the first lucky beast since time immemorial. If you stare at me like that again, I won't be polite anymore. The surging aura of the ancient sky cracking technique caused Mei's face to turn pale. I'm sorry. Mei suppressed the shock in her heart and stood on the spot, her expression constantly changing. Am I really wrong? There are good ones among the ancient ferocious beasts. At the moment when Mei was stunned, young master, a sound came from outside the courtyard. Huang Rumeng quickly walked forward and opened the courtyard door. When she saw Luo Luyan, she took Luo Luyan into the front yard. Young master, after Luo Luyan saw Mei, she stopped talking. It's okay. We're all friends. If you have something to say, just say it. Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. Luo Luyan clasped her fists. Young master, the people have been found. There are more than 4,000 people in total, and now they are standing outside the courtyard door. Young master, what do you think? Luo Luyan asked. More than 4,000 people? Sun Hao's face showed a look of surprise. Unexpectedly, he could find more than 4,000 reliable people. This Miss Luyan was really good at doing things. That's fine, let's go out. After speaking, Sun Hao took the two women and walked straight out of the courtyard. With doubts, Mei followed behind and walked out of the courtyard door. Greetings, young master. The neat voice blasted through the sky. Everyone's face was filled with fiery and worship eyes. That kind of respect from the bones was not concealed. Mei looked at this scene and couldn't calm down for a long time. Even a mother empress couldn't do this. Most of them relied on the emperor's power to crush and make people awe, and these people were completely different. It was all respect from the bones. In today's world, who could do this? Would so many people be so respectful to an ancient demon? It was impossible. Is he really not an ancient devil? Then how did he tame the ancient crack space? Mei muttered to herself, strong curiosity written all over her face. Everyone doesn't have to be so polite. Please get up. Thank you, young master. Everyone stood up and stared at Sun Hao, showing an expression of facing death calmly. That appearance was like a soldier who was going to die. There is nothing important to ask you to come here today. I just want everyone to listen to my song. Sun Hao looked at the crowd and said, Listen to music? No way. Deliberately looking for people to listen to music. Listening to music is something people want to do, right? What's the difference between this and the behavior of the devil? Mei thought secretly, staring at Sun Hao. She saw Sun Hao sitting in front of the ancient zither and began to play the strings. Zheng. The sound of the zither sounded, and the seven-colored god essence vibrated from Sun Hao's fingertips. In an instant, it enveloped thousands of people in front of him. The seven-colored god essence quickly penetrated into their bodies, strengthening their physical bodies and enhancing their strength. Everyone sat cross-legged on the ground and began to absorb these seven-colored god essences. Mei stood in place, looking at these seven-colored god essences, opened her mouth wide, and murmured for a long time without spitting out a word. This is God essence. His playing of the zither can actually produce God essence. God? Could he be a god? At this point, Mei took countless breaths of cold air. If I can absorb some God essence, then my physical body will be greatly enhanced. My realm of strength will also increase rapidly. Mei looked at the seven-colored God essence that kept flowing, and her eyes were full of envy. She stretched out her hand to touch the seven-colored God essence. However, the seven-colored God essence seemed to have spirituality and kept a fixed distance from her. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't touch it. Hey, it seems that I am just an outsider. Mei looked at Sun Hao and sighed secretly. Her face was full of a dispirited look. Suddenly, "Kacha!" The sound of the realm barrier breaking sounded. Shueme looked startled, looking at the person who broke through, and her pupils contracted. Before she could come back to her senses, she heard a voice. "Kacha!" Dense sounds kept ringing. It's only been a breath of time, and so many people have broken through to the immortal realm. His playing of a song can actually make so many people break through to the immortal realm. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Shueme looked at Sun Hao, her eyes showing a trace of worship. Afterward, she looked at the two talismans in her hand and couldn't help but show a bitter smile. In front of such a god, her two talismans were just a joke. It seems that the god doesn't have killing intent towards me. Otherwise, I would have died 10,000 times. Shueme put the talismans into the soul space. Her tense nerves relaxed at this moment. In the next second, a sudden change occurred. Chapter 367. Phew! The surrounding seven-color divine energy quickly surged over and wrapped around Shueme. At this moment, Shueme stood rooted to the ground, her face full of shock. All along, Xiao Chun had been wary of this seven-color divine energy, which seemed to have spirituality and was also wary of him. After he removed his guard, the seven-color divine essence directly rushed over. Phew! The seven-color divine energy was as thin as silk, bringing with it a warm feeling. It drilled into Xiao Chen's body through his meridians, quickly strengthening his body. All the muscles in his body felt as if they had been electrocuted, and a numb feeling kept surging. Shueme bit her lips, unwilling to make sound. However, the comfort from the improvement of her physical body greatly stimulated her nerves. Even his soul was ascending. At this moment, she could no longer control herself. Like a breached dam, torrents violently surged in all directions. After a long time, Shueme regained some consciousness. Her eyes were filled with astonishment. I managed to break through to the 5th grade Celestial Highness realm in just a breath's time. Also, my fleshly body should at least double in size. My talent has increased once again. Even my mental state has improved a lot. Ordinary deities probably don't have this kind of ability, right? Shueme looked at Sun Hao with awe in her eyes. Then, she closed her eyes, sat on the ground in a lotus position, and continued to absorb the seven-colored origin energy. In front of Sun Hao, everyone sat cross-legged on the ground with a comfortable look. Violet Sunstar in the Thunder Tribulation space. Phew! A blood-red figure appeared. He was the Thunder Tribulation giant, Thunderwolf. Because his performance was the best, he was sent to the Purple Sun planet to be the Thunder Punishment Messenger. The Thunder God Sword is finally mine. Leilu, are you very angry? Do you accept your defeat? Let's see who's stronger in the next round. There's so many immortals on the Violet Sunstar, and there are even immortal kings. The first place belongs to me. Lei Lang faced upwards and let out a long howl, as if he had gone crazy. His expression was indescribable. After a long time, he withdrew his expression. Something doesn't feel right. It seems like someone is ascending to become an immortal. What's going on? Lei Lang knitted his brows and scanned the surroundings with his divine sense. After a while, Lei Lang's gaze pierced through the void and stared in the direction of the great demon mountain. Lei Yang, what should I say to you? He even set up a lightning tribulation forbidden zone. Aren't you too funny? We are the heavenly law emissaries. Only they are afraid of us. How can we be afraid of them? Supreme existence? In my opinion, it's just a slightly bigger ant. Nothing to be afraid of. Now, you're locked in the lightning prison. Isn't it great? Lei Lang muttered to himself with a sneer on his face. Bloodthirst and insolence were written all over his face. Sizzle. Lei Lang stretched out his hand, and red lightning flickered on his fingertips. Phew! He pointed at the void and pressed his finger. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled, and the Thunder Tribulation Forbidden Zone instantly collapsed. On the demonic Ancestor Mountain, several auras of advancement surged into the lightning tribulation space. Sizzle! The Thunder Tribulation crystal ball in the space lit up with hundreds of lightning bolts. Seeing this scene, Lei Lang could not help but widen his eyes. Several hundred people are advancing at the same time. That's not all. It's still increasing. In just a short while, dozens more have appeared. God, you love me too much. On the first day, you can let me complete the task of decades. This time, the first place must be mine. Lei Lang's heart beat violently, and his eyes bloomed with light. His whole body was trembling slightly with excitement. More and more, and it's still increasing. Let's kill a wave first. Thinking like this, Lei Lang's figure flashed and instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already over the Great Demon Mountain. At this moment on the Great Demon Mountain, dark clouds were pressing down. Sizzle. The blood-red lightning bolts were running in the dark clouds, bursting out a soul-stirring aura. Ha! Lei Lang kept galloping in the dark clouds, and every laugh resounded through the world like thunder. The whole earth was trembling slightly. I'm not as weak as Lei Yang. You ants actually dare to gather together to cross the tribulation. Today, don't even think about living. Fighting with heaven? All of you go to hell. Lei Lang roared and took out the immortal tribulation thunderhammer. The idea moved. Sizzle. The blood-red lightning kept flashing on the immortal tribulation thunderhammer, bursting out a soul-stirring aura. Then, these lightning bolts converged into a huge lightning bolt. And below it blasted down. Sizzle. The skies seemed to be torn apart, and a lightning bolt like a pillar of heaven enveloped the world. The terrifying power, like the Milky Way pouring down, whistled down. At this moment, in the Great Demon Mountain, all the monsters crawled on the ground, shivering. Sun Hao's residence. At this moment, he had stopped playing the guqin. Sensing the scene in the sky, he couldn't help but frown. Raising his head to take a look, his pupils constricted. 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes. In an instant, he stared at the huge lightning bolt. At this moment, the lightning slowly disappeared from the bottom to the top. Not a bit of power was left. Lei Lang looked at the disappearing lightning, and he couldn't help but widen his eyes, full of disbelief. This power gathered together. Even the immortal king could not take it. It did not cause the immortal king thunderhammer to move. Presumably, it was not blocked by the immortal king. Could it be that the immortal king made a move? Impossible. In this case, the immortal king thunderhammer could sense it. If it wasn't, why did the immortal tribulation I used disappear just like that? Could it be that there was really a supreme existence? Thinking of this, Lei Lang stared directly at the ground. The next second, his heart tightened, and his whole body trembled violently. He looked at Sun Hao, and a kind of fear from the bones enveloped his whole body. He was clearly immortal, but his sharp gaze made people feel extremely uncomfortable. Even if the ruler looked at him, he didn't feel this way. Who is he? How can he be so terrifying? What should I do? Lei Lang asked. His hand holding the immortal tribulation thunderhammer was trembling slightly. There was a feeling of powerlessness in his whole body. Not good. This is the power of the seal. He looked at me, and I can seal it? I am the heavenly law messenger. The execution is the law of the heavenly law. I'm blessed by the heavenly law. How can he seal my power? Lei Lang muttered to himself. Fear was like black ants crawling all over his body. The incomparably uncomfortable feeling came in waves. Plop. At this moment, he could no longer control himself. He directly knelt down and kowtowed to Sun Hao. Supreme Existence, I was wrong. Don't look at me like this. This little one will leave immediately and will never come again. At this moment, he knew Lei Yang's original state of mind. At that time, how helpless and desperate he was. In front of such an existence, the ruler had to kneel down. P.S. Group 947782868. Looking forward to your joining. There are big shots in there who often send red packets. Chapter 368. Supreme Being, please don't look. I was wrong, okay? Lei Lang kept kowtowing and saluting Sun Hao. However, it was useless. The power of the seal never stopped. It quickly enveloped him. His strength was quickly being sealed. Supreme Being, why are you looking at me like this? With doubts. Lei Lang summoned up his courage and swept to the ground. Immediately, Lei Lang's heart trembled. He looked at Huang Rumeng and couldn't help but widen his eyes. He saw that in Huang Rumeng's hands, countless strands of lightning were swimming quickly. Of course, he knew these electric lights. These were all Thunder Tribulation electric lights. The Thunder Tribulation electric lights were slowly gathering with the white light in Huang Rumeng's hands and merging into a whole. She is merging the great Tao. My God, that is the Thunder Tribulation heavenly Tao. She actually merged them together. My lord, what did I see? That inconspicuous little girl can actually fuse 10 types of great Tao so perfectly, and even fuse it with the heavenly Tao of lightning tribulation. Lei Lang opened his mouth wide and didn't respond for a long time. Could it be? Lei Lang raised his eyebrows and seemed to think of something. At this moment, he understood. He understood why Lei Yang's immortal tribulation thunder hammer was not kept well. He actually gave the Thunder Tribulation heavenly Tao to that girl. It turned out to be like this. Supreme Being, I understand. Lei Lang muttered to himself, and without any hesitation, he pulled out a strand of electric light from the immortal tribulation thunder hammer. After pulling out all the electric light on it, it was barely enough to count. Without any hesitation, he divided these electric lights into thousands of strands and threw them at a group of people who had just broken through the immortal realm. These electric lights, without any harm, directly penetrated into everyone's body and quickly strengthened their physique. After doing this, Lei Lang regained his freedom. He looked at Sun Hao and secretly wiped his cold sweat, thinking that it was dangerous. He sealed himself with one look. How terrifying was he? Could it be a god? At this point, Lei Lang's body trembled, and his face was full of panic. Without any hesitation, he stepped out and disappeared instantly. When he appeared again, he returned to the Thunder Tribulation space. Too dangerous, too terrifying. How can there be such an existence in this world? This is simply frightening. Lei Lang heaved a sigh of relief and calmed down a little. Releasing lightning tribulation in front of such an existence was no different from courting death. No wonder Lei Yang said that the ruler would regret it. Looking at it now, it was not wrong at all. The immortal tribulation thunder hammer has been destroyed. I can't go back and explain this to the ruler. How can I explain this? I'm afraid that even if I told him the truth, the sovereign wouldn't believe me. Lei Lang's eyes were filled with bitterness. Compared to his previous brutal and ruthless self, he was a completely different person. Looks like my performance will be 0 for the next 10 years. What to do? What to do? With such an existence here, there's no way I can complete the mission. Now, even if someone breaks through to the immortal realm, I don't have the immortal tribulation lightning hammer. Lei Lang's face was ashen, his complexion extremely unsightly. Right now, unless someone broke through to the immortal king realm, there would still be a sliver of hope. However, breaking through to the immortal king realm? There might not even be one in 100 years. This thought had just arisen. Phew! Hundreds of light rays rushed over and entered the Thunder Tribulation crystal ball. Buzz! The Thunder Tribulation crystal ball lit up with a dazzling light, illuminating the entire space. This is the immortal king tribulation. My God, is this the opportunity you are giving me? Lei Lang took out the immortal king thunder hammer, his face full of hope. He was immersed in excitement, and for a while, he couldn't calm down. As long as I kill an immortal king, the performance will be considered qualified. If I kill 2, the first performance will belong to me. If I kill all of them, I will even trigger the legendary Thunder God's tablet. Lei Lang muttered to himself, his eyes full of light. He was about to move. Phew! Several rays of light flew over quickly and drilled into the Thunder Tribulation crystal ball again. Above the Thunder Tribulation crystal ball, there was a dazzling light again. Buzz! The immortal venerable thunder hammer in Lei Lang's hand lit up with a dazzling light. Immortal venerable thunder tribulation. This time, there are actually a few immortal venerable tribulations. Lei Lang looked up to the sky and laughed, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. Then he took a step out. When he appeared again, he was over the great demon mountain. The dark clouds, as thick as ink, enveloped the whole world. It was so dark that he couldn't see his fingers. Lei Lang's body turned into lightning, galloping in the dark clouds. That kind of joy was written all over his face. Suddenly, his mind tightened, and his whole body couldn't help but stagnate. His strength was quickly being sealed. What the hell is going on? Could it be that he came to the Supreme Being's place? Thinking of this, Lei Lang's scalp was numb, and cold sweat flowed. His eyes swept to the ground. Suddenly, his body trembled. He saw that Sun Hao's two eyes were staring directly at him. Lei Lang opened his mouth, but did not spit out a word. Supreme Being, don't look at me. I understand. Lei Lang muttered to himself and took out the immortal King Thunderhammer with an extremely painful expression. After extracting hundreds of strands of immortal King Thunderlight from above, he threw them down to the people below. One strand for each person went straight into each person's body. However, the feeling of being on the back kept sweeping. Supreme Being, I can't pull out anymore. If the immortal King Thunderhammer is crippled, my little life will be in danger. Lei Lang muttered to himself, his face full of bitterness. However, that gaze did not diminish, but it became sharper. His body's strength was quickly being sealed. Well, Supreme Being, with an extremely painful expression, Lei Lang extracted all the lightning on the immortal King Thunderhammer and gave it to the person who had crossed the immortal King Tribulation. Then, he extracted all the lightning on the immortal King Thunderhammer and gave it to each immortal king. At this point, all 3 Thunderhammers were scrapped. This kind of thing was said to be a gift from the upper realm. All scrapped, even if they did not die, they would lose a layer of skin. At least it was impossible to become a Thunder Punishment Messenger. After the last wisp of lightning was extracted, the power of the seal on his body disappeared instantly. At this moment, Lei Lang regained his freedom. Without any hesitation, Lei Lang stepped out and disappeared in place. Back in the Thunder Tribulation space, Lei Lang stood in place. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and he muttered for a long time without spitting out a word. Plop! He collapsed to the ground, his face ashen. From the first place in performance to scrapping 3 Thunderhammers. This sense of disparity was simply unimaginable. What should I do? Lei Lang's eyes kept turning, thinking of a way. This can't be blamed on me at all. Even if the ruler came, it would definitely be the same result. This matter must be reported to the ruler immediately and let him decide. Whether I live or die, I can only leave it to fate. Lei Lang muttered to himself, secretly making a decision. After he glanced at the crystal ball, he took a big step and disappeared without a trace.